Chapter 1 System Activation. He traveled through time and became the 9th prince of the Great Xia Dynasty, but this identity brought a lot of troubles to Lu Chen. Lu Chen looked at the imperial edict in his hand and sighed deeply. At this time, a graceful woman wearing a green dress entered the hall where Lu Chen was. Seeing Lu Chen's sad face, the woman comforted him and said, "Chener, there is no danger in the north, and it is far away from the capital. It may be a good place for you." The woman's voice is gentle and crisp, just like the spring breeze blowing into people's hearts. Lu Chen raised his head and stared at the woman in front of him, the sadness on his face wiped away. The woman's name was Chu Yukan, and she used to be his mother's concubine's maid, but his mother always regarded her as her sister, so Lu Chen also called her Aunt Chu. When Lu Chen was 10 years old, his mother passed away, and Chu Yukan was always by his side to take care of him. Not long after he traveled to this world, he recovered his memories on Earth, but these memories were not of much help to him. Unlike the time traveler in the novel who knows everything, except for some common sense, he doesn't know much about science and engineering, and he can't remember many ancient poems. Even if he memorized ancient poems every day when he was in high school, he had forgotten them by this time. It's so clean that it can be said that he is no different from the ancients. As for politics, Lu Chen knew nothing about it, but Lu Chen knew one thing, that is, you must not participate in the fight for the right to inherit the throne, otherwise you will not know how you will die. Her mother was born in the Chu family, a wealthy family in the south of the Yangtze River. If he wanted to participate in the fight for the heir, there would be no support at all. Moreover, there were people who had been tempting him and wanting him to compete for that position. Fortunately, he knew that he had a few kilograms or taels. Now this life of having clothes to put out his hands and food to open his mouth is actually not bad. He doesn't need to take risks. It's just a pity that he will soon go to the bitter cold land in the north to suffer. Perhaps because he was too incompetent and only cared about enjoying happiness, the emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty, his father, granted Mu Zixuan to marry him on the grounds that he had reached adulthood, and asked him to move to Fanbei County. In the past, I don't know how many people wanted to marry Mu Zixuan, the most talented woman in the capital. But things are different now. Because Mu Zixuan's family has a relationship with a rebellious family, although the Mu family took out the Iron Scroll to save the Mu family, the family's status has also plummeted. Anyone with a little bit of political savvy knows that as long as you marry Mu Zixuan, you will basically have no chance of becoming the prince. Lu Chen didn't care about the position of the crown prince. He just felt that the Mu family was involved with the rebellious family. After he married Mu Zixuan, would it affect his beautiful life one day? He was worried, but this was a marriage gift from his father, and he couldn't refuse it, he could only accept it. At this time, the corners of Lu Chen's mouth raised slightly, and he said with a smile, "Aunt Chu, if I go to Beijing, won't you feel lonely in the capital alone?" In addition to being the maid of Lu Chen's mother, Chu Yukan also had a special identity. She was also from the Chu family, and she represented the interests of the entire Chu family in front of Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen married Mu Zixuan and went to Beijing, which meant that he had completely lost the possibility of becoming the prince. The Chu family would not continue to bet on him, and Chu Yukan might also leave him. Chu Yukan's strength has reached the 9th level. In this low martial world, there are not many 9th level masters in the entire Great Xia Dynasty, and it is impossible for the Chu family to let a 9th level master follow a useless prince. Chu Yukan smiled and then replied, "If you go to Beijing, I will go with you." Hearing this, Lu Chen was stunned. Lu Chen asked doubtfully, "Aunt Chu, are you sure you want to go to Beijing with me?" Chu Yukan replied with a smile, "Of course, I promised your mother that I will protect you for the rest of my life. You ask this question. Is it possible that you don't want your aunt anymore since you have a princess?" Lu Chen quickly said, "How could it be possible? I really wish you, Aunt Chu, would go to Beijing with me." Without you, Aunt Chu, I might not even be able to sleep. Speaking of this, Lu Chen glanced at Chu Yukin. Chu Yukin is 28 years old this year, but she is still as gorgeous as ever. She was wearing a green cloud dress, and her beautiful face was flawless. Her snow-white face showed a faint blush, and she was pretty and charming. She had a pair of water-cut eyes, as clear as a spring, and the corners of her lips were slightly arched, and she was happy. Smiling, demure and gentle as water. Her black hair was combed back from her back, and her cloud-like hair was tied up high in the clouds. The cloud-like hair tied with jasper hairpins was scattered on both sides of her shoulders, and her willow-like hair was blowing in the wind. The jet-black pearl on the jasper hairpin shines against the jet-black hair, and the exquisite curves protruding from the cyan clothes are even more charming. Lu Chen's feelings for Chu Yukin are relatively complicated, but one thing he knows is that he is very greedy for Chu Yukin. If Chu Yukin left him, he would really not be able to bear it. At this time, Chu Yukin said dotingly, "Okay, stop talking so much, let's prepare for your wedding." A few days later, the Buwang mansion was bustling inside and outside, with lights and colorful lanterns hanging everywhere. Today is Lu Chen's big day. Almost all the ministers, whether they have a good relationship with Lu Chen or not, are here. After the wedding banquet, Lu Chen couldn't wait to come to the wedding room. Lu Chen has figured it out in the past few days. No matter what happened to Mu Zixuan's family, Mu Zixuan has already married him, so there is no need for him to care too much. Now that Mu Zixuan married him, she would be his princess from now on. Lu Chen felt extremely excited when he thought that Mu Zixuan was rumored to be a beautiful woman. Unlike Chu Yukin, although Lu Chen misses Chu Yukin has a special status after all, and now that Mu Zixuan has married him, he can really get in touch with her. After entering the wedding room, Lu Chen's eyes instantly locked on the wedding bed. At this time, a woman wearing a bright red wedding dress was sitting on the wedding bed. She was covered with a hijab. Although her face could not be seen, her graceful figure had already captured Lu Chen's heart. On both sides of the woman, there were two maids standing. These two maids were both very good-looking. In his previous life, it would have been very difficult for Lu Chen to marry such a beautiful woman as the maid. Lu Chen came to Mu Zixuan with excitement, then took a jade stick from the maid's hand and gently opened the hijab. The next moment, a beautiful face came into view. Mu Zixuan was like a fairy falling into the mortal world, or like a fairy from the 9 heavens coming to earth, which made Lu Chen stunned. Mu Zixuan blushed and said a little shyly, "Husband, you should drink." Seeing Mu Zixuan's shy look, Lu Chen couldn't hold back anymore and pounced on her. The two maids originally wanted to remind Lu Chen to drink Hexen wine, but seeing that Lu Chen had already started doing business, they had no choice but to quietly stand aside and wait. I don't know how long it took. Lu Chen hugged Mu Zixuan's body and lay on the bed, completely relaxing. Maybe this is the life he wants. But at this moment, a strange woman's voice sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for having his first wife and activating the system of having many children and many blessings. The gift package for newcomers has been distributed, do you want to receive it? Chapter 2 Gift Package for Newcomers. Seeing the blue interface in front of him, Lu Chen was stunned just like he had just seen Mu Zixuan's beautiful face. He even wondered whether he was hallucinating because his body was weak due to excessive exercise just now. Then he looked straight at the blue interface, then raised his hand and selected yes. Then, the woman's voice sounded again. Newbie gift package has been received. When the beep sounded, many things appeared in front of Lu Chen's eyes. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a dragon tiger pill, a breakthrough pill, a desert eagle, 500 bullets, 50 grenades, and a dragon and phoenix tree seed. Lu Chen didn't know what these things were for. He first glanced at the beauty next to him warily. Mu Zixuan had fallen asleep from exhaustion, so he raised his hand again with confidence and clicked on the blue interface. Dragon Tiger Pill 3 words. Dragon Tiger Pill, after being eaten, it can greatly increase the host's combat effectiveness and ensure that the host gives birth to children faster. The next moment, a beautiful porcelain bottle appeared in Lu Chen's hands. Lu Chen's eyes lit up, it was actually true. Then he thought and waved his hand, and the small porcelain bottle returned to the blue interface. Lu Chen clicked on several other rewards. Breaking Realm Pill, after taking it, the host can directly become a first-level warrior. Desert Eagle, this gun is very powerful and can protect the host from living safer in this world. Dragon and Phoenix Tree Seeds, the dragon and phoenix tree can be cultivated with the blood of the host. When the dragon and phoenix tree grows, the woman will become completely dependent on the host after taking the tea made from the leaves of the dragon and phoenix tree. The seeds can help the host to have more high-quality heirs. Lu Chen was very excited when he saw the introduction of these things. He didn't expect that he had already resigned himself to being an ordinary prince for the rest of his life. At this time, a more children, more blessings system actually appeared. Lu Chen then asked in his mind, "System, can I get rewards for any woman who gives birth to a child for me?" Although the system already exists, Lu Chen does not believe that the system does not have any requirements. If every woman can be rewarded for giving birth to a child, then he will soon be invincible. He will only need to work at home every day. Tian, there is nothing else to do. Women's score needs to reach 90. After hearing the system sound, Lu Chen turned to look at Music Xuan again. At this time, a recognition interface pops up. Name, Music Xuan. Identity, the daughter of Mu Chongtian, a subject of the Great Xia Dynasty, and the princess of the Northern King. Rating, 93. Favorability, 60, you made her feel very satisfied today. Seeing that Music Xuan's score was 93 points, Lu Chen smiled. It was really unreasonable for such a beautiful woman not to have a score of 93 points. Then Lu Chen glanced at the two maids in the room. Those two maids were also quite beautiful, and they might have a rating of 90. Name, Zhou Xiao Xiao. Identity, Zhou Wangdian's daughter. After Zhou Wangdian's house was ransacked, the girl was sent to the Jiaofang division and later bought by the Mu family. Today, as a dowry maid, she followed Music Xuan, the eldest daughter of the Mu family, to marry into the Buwang Palace. Rating, 90. Favorability, 50. Lu Chen was stunned when he saw the introduction of the maid in front of him. He was not surprised that Zhou Xiaoxiao had a score of 90, after all, she was indeed very beautiful. What shocked him was that this woman was actually Zhou Wangdian's daughter. Zhou Wangdian is the person who caused the rebellion against the Mu family. It is not clear whether he really rebelled against Lu Chen, but it was officially classified as rebellion. The Mu family was too courageous. Zhou Xiaoxiao was even sent to the Jiaofang division. The Mu family he actually dared to fish her out. And he even sent her to Buwang Mansion. Wasn't this a trick on him? If someone knows about this matter, it is very likely that he will be implicated. Lu Chen then glanced at the maid next to him who was also very beautiful. Name, Zhou Yuyu. Identity, Zhou Wangdian's daughter, Zhou Zioxiao's sister. After Zhou Wangdian's house was ransacked, the girl was sent to the Jiaofang department, and was later bought by the Mu family with money. Today, she is used as a dowry maid to marry the eldest daughter of the Mu family, Music Xuan, into the north. King's Mansion. Rating, 91. Favorability, 80, she fell in love with you at first sight. Seeing Zhou Yuyu's information, Lu Chen frowned, and it turned out to be what he was thinking. When he entered the wedding room just now, he was very curious as to why Music Xuan's maids were so beautiful. What kind of maids were they here and there? They were clearly two eldest ladies. But having said that, both of them have a score of 90. If they are allowed to give birth to their own children, they can also meet the system's conditions. This is equivalent to buying one and getting two free. But how should their two identities be handled? It's just too sensitive. Although they were bought by the Mu family with money, and perhaps the procedure was legal, they were the daughters of guilty ministers after all and could only be used as slaves. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao and Zhou Yuya were standing next to the wedding room. They saw that Lu Chen did not sleep after being busy, but stared directly at them, and they suddenly shivered. They all saw Lu Chen's atrocities just now. They entered the palace as dowry maids. Even if Mu Zixuan went to the bridal chamber, they had to wait on Lu Chen and Mu Zixuan, such as wiping sweat and so on. Even when the hostess, when that doesn't work, they have to serve Lu Chen on behalf of the mistress. They had already accepted their fate, and for the two daughters of criminals, it would be their luck if they could be favored by Lu Chen. The reason why the Mu family chose these two as dowry maids was because they wanted the northern prince's palace to protect them. Lu Chen coughed and then said, "You can go to bed." The two said in unison, "Yes, Your Majesty." Immediately, they turned around and walked towards the main room next to the wedding room. Looking at the graceful backs of the two sisters, Lu Chen couldn't help but think that ancient society was really evil. But he was used to it, and even the two sisters who were watching him didn't feel uncomfortable. After they left the wedding room, Lu Chen took out the Breaking Realm pill and swallowed it directly. Immediately afterwards, a warm current entered his body, and Lu Chen suddenly felt that his whole body became extremely relaxed. Immediately, a blue interface appeared in front of him. Host, Lu Chen. Realm, First Grade. Skills, none. Supernatural powers, none. Weapon, Desert Eagle. Heirs, none. Lu Chen just glanced at it and closed the system interface. At this time, he was a little restless. After coming to this world, he exercised almost every day according to the way of exercising on Earth. However, he had never practiced martial arts, so he never had the power of a warrior. Having the power of a warrior for the first time, Lu Chen wanted to test it out. However, after taking a look at the sleeping beauty next to him, Lu Chen finally gave up the idea. Let's wait until tomorrow morning to discuss everything. Early the next morning, Chu Yukin came to the courtyard where Lu Chen was. Seeing that Lu Chen and Mu Zixuan's wedding room was still closed, she asked the palace soldier at the door, "Is Chen not up yet?" The soldier stammered and replied with an embarrassed look on his face, "Well, the prince is already up, but he is still busy. Mrs. Chu should please come back." As soon as the soldier finished speaking, Chu Yukin vaguely heard some sounds coming from the room. Chapter 3 Aunt Chu's Reminder. As a 9th grade warrior, Chu Yukin had a very high status in the North Palace. She was in charge of the entire guards of the North Palace. However, even so, the soldiers guarding the gate still felt that it was inappropriate to let Chu Yukin wake up their prince. In the past, there was no problem for Chu Yukin to ask their prince to get up, but now that their prince is married, it would be very embarrassing if he encountered Lu Chen and their princess having fun. For example, right now. Although the courtyard door and the wedding room are a bit far apart, you can still vaguely hear some sounds coming from inside. Chu Yukin frowned. Although she was still young, as an adult woman, she naturally knew why there were these sounds. Chu Yukin said to herself, "This little villain is restless early in the morning." At this time, Chu Yukin turned to look at the soldiers on the side and said, "Go down. From now on, the guards guarding the courtyard gate will be replaced by female guards." The soldier quickly said, "Yes, Mrs. Chu." After the soldier finished speaking, he fled this place of right and wrong in panic. After Lu Chen and Mu Zixuan had some fun, he held Mu Zixuan tightly in his arms. At this time, Mu Zixuan's face was rosy and she did not dare to look directly into Lu Chen's eyes. Lu Chen stroked Mu Zixuan's hair and asked with a smile, "Madam, are you satisfied with my husband?" Mu Zixuan said softly, Before she married into the palace, she was a little worried about whether he looked like a child, but after meeting Lu Chen, all her worries dissipated. After a night of communication, she discovered that Bei Wang's body had grown. Although he was not particularly tall, his body was very strong. Degree. And he is also very handsome, which completely fits her image of a perfect husband. The Mu family was affected by the rebellion and would not be able to turn around for a long time in the future. Being able to marry a prince was considered a blessing for her. Originally, her father had raised her as a princess, but she had no intention of becoming a princess. In her opinion, marrying an idle prince was much better than being a princess. Although Prince Bei's mind may not be mature enough, this also means that she, the princess, has a great say in Prince Bei's mansion. Moreover, the northern king's territory was relatively far away from the capital. After leaving the capital, they might never be able to return to the capital. Mu Zixuan felt extremely happy at the thought of being far away from the political center. Lu Chen said at this time, "Tomorrow we will leave for Beijing. After getting up, I will go with you to meet your father." Mu Zixuan said, "Okay." Then, under the service of two beautiful maids, Lu Chen took a simple shower and then walked out of the room. When Lu Chen saw Chu Yukin standing at the door of the courtyard, his eyes lit up and he immediately used the system to identify her personal information. Name, Chu Yukin. Identity, Chu Yu's maid, Chu Yu's sworn sister to Jin Lan, the spokesperson of the Chu family's interests, Wang Han's wife, now the leader of the guards of the North Palace, and the North King's first love. Rating, 97. Favorability, 98. Lu Chen was a little confused when he saw Chu Yukin's identity introduction. Wang Han died on the day Chu Yukin married Wang Han. They didn't even have a wedding, so how could she be regarded as Wang Han's wife? Also, what happened to Bei Wang's first love? Although I am indeed very greedy for her. Isn't this identity introduction a bit unreliable? But having said that, Chu Yukin actually had a score of 97, and her favorability level for herself reached 98. This further stimulated the evil thoughts in his heart. At this time, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Aunt Chu, why did you come here so early in the morning to listen to Jiang Zhen?" Hearing this, Chu Yukin spat, and then cursed, "You little scoundrel, you are dishonest so early in the morning. Although it is important to carry on the family lineage, you must also take care of your health." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry, Aunt Chu, I am strong and can withstand it." Chu Yukin rolled her eyes at Lu Chen, and then said, "After dinner, go and see Duke Mu. Although he was implicated not long ago, his influence in the army is still very great. You go to Beijing and become a vassal. When the time comes, you still need to rely on him to take care of things." Lu Chen asked curiously, "Why do I need him to take care of me when I go to Beijing?" Chu Yukin said with a smile on her face, "Chener, you don't think that your visit to Beijing will be smooth sailing this time, do you?" Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Aunt Chu, what do you mean by this? Don't scare me." Chu Yukin said, "Although you will most likely miss that position, for some people, only the dead will not be a threat." This. Lu Chen naturally understood what Chu Yukin meant, but in his opinion, he had always behaved like a waste and had never made friends with any ministers. No one should think that he was a threat. Chu Yukin continued to explain, "Auntie, I know what you are thinking. You must be thinking that you have never shown any interest in that position and have never made friends with the ministers of the DPRK, so no one will regard you as a threat. But you forget one thing, that is your identity. Even if you do nothing, your identity determines that some people will definitely regard you as a threat." Lu Chen reacted instantly. He had always believed that as long as he stayed at home, did nothing, and did not get involved in the fight for the right to inherit the throne, he would not be in danger. However, he seemed to have forgotten that his mother had a strong political identity. Her mother was from the Chu family and represented the interests of the Chu family. And he has been assigned to the Chu family's camp since he was born. Even if he doesn't do anything, others will think that his relationship with the Chu family is unusual. In the eyes of some people, if you want to cooperate with the Chu family, you must solve your own obstacle, because the Chu family may not give up on you. Only if he dies can the Chu family give up on him completely and choose to cooperate with other princes. Thinking of this, Lu Chen was not too worried. If it were yesterday, he might still be worried about his own safety, but after obtaining the system, he already has some confidence. Then he said, "Aunt Chu, I understand what you mean." At this time, Chu Yukin's eyes fell on Mu Zixuan, who was coming out of the room. Mu Zixuan was supported by the two sisters of the Zhou family and walked with a limp. After seeing Chu Yukin, Mu Zixuan immediately said, "I have met Mrs. Chu." The status of the princess was higher than that of Chu Yukin. Chu Yukin should have taken the initiative to salute Mu Zixuan, but Mu Zixuan knew very well Chu Yukin's status in the North Palace. Chu Yukin smiled and nodded, "Zixuan, from now on Chen'er will be left to you." Mu Zixuan said, "Mrs. Chu, please rest assured, I will take good care of the prince." Chu Yukin didn't say anything more, and then turned and left the yard. After breakfast, Lu Chen and Mu Zixuan arrived at Duke Mu's mansion. Duke Mu looks very tall and powerful. After seeing Lu Chen, Mu Chongtian immediately said, "I've met King Bei." Lu Chen quickly said, "Father-in-law, you don't have to be polite." Mu Chongtian looked at Lu Chen and then said, "Please, King Bei." Under the leadership of Mu Chongtian, Lu Chen came to the main hall. Mu Chongtian asked at this time, "I wonder what the Northern King's plans are after he takes over Fanbei County." To be honest, Mu Chongtian didn't intend to discuss too much politics with Lu Chen. Firstly, Lu Chen was still young this year, and secondly, Lu Chen himself was a lazy prince who was idle and didn't even read much. Of course, this does not mean that he looks down on Lu Chen. No matter what, Lu Chen is still a prince. Hearing Mu Changtian's question, Lu Chen thought for a while and replied, "Just manage Beijun well, and then live a peaceful life with Zixuan." Hearing Lu Chen's answer, Mu Chongtian instantly regretted asking Lu Chen this question. Lu Chen was a typical political novice. He didn't even understand the meaning of what he just said. Mu Chongtian sighed inwardly, not knowing whether his daughter's marriage to King Bei was a good destination. At this time, Lu Chen took the initiative and said, "I heard that my father-in-law has a strong influence in the military. When I went to Beijun to join the vassal, I asked my father-in-law to help me." Hearing this, Mu Chongtian thought to himself that King Bei really didn't understand anything and was still a child. Although he does have a strong influence in the military, no one can say it directly. But that's fine. The more ignorant Lu Chen is, the more important his daughter will be in Buwang Mansion, which is actually a good thing for his daughter. Mu Chongtian then smiled and said, "Don't worry, King Bei, your trip to Beijun will be smooth sailing." Chapter 4, What more can a husband ask for when he gets a wife like this? Mu Chongtian didn't explicitly say that he wanted to help Lu Chen. There were some things in politics that couldn't be said explicitly. However, since he has guaranteed that Lu Chen's trip to Beijun will be smooth sailing, it means that he will definitely send people to protect King Bei, and will also greet the army well. Although Lu Chen was a novice in politics, he could still understand Mu Changtian's words. Lu Chen said, "Thank you, father-in-law." Mu Chongtian looked at the servants in the hall at this time, and then said to those servants, "You guys go out first. I have something to say to King Bei alone." "Yes." Then the servants left the hall. After everyone went out, Lu Chen asked curiously, "I wonder what my father-in-law wants to tell me." Mu Chongtian asked his servants to leave the hall first before talking to him. It must be a very important matter. Mu Chongtian said at this time, "King Bei, I want to remind you that even if you reach Beijun safely, you will not always be safe and sound." Lu Chen asked, "Why is this?" Mu Chongtian knew that Lu Chen was a political novice, so he simply made it clear. Your mother-in-law is the eldest lady of the Chu family, and the Chu family naturally belongs to your faction. Although you have left Kyoto, in the eyes of most princes, you still pose a great threat to them. And the Chu family probably still has expectations for you. Even I think so, and those princes will definitely think so too. If you were still here, the Chu family would probably always support you, but if it were you... Mu Chongtian did not continue speaking. After all, what he said later was a bit disrespectful, and he believed that Lu Chen should have understood what he meant. Hearing Mu Chongtian's reminder, Lu Chen instantly understood what he meant. After all, Chu Yukan had only reminded him this morning. Lu Chen sighed inwardly. My situation is indeed dangerous. If he had not died, the Chu family might have always had expectations for him. The Chu family was a big family in Jiangnan. For any prince, the support of the Chu family was very important. If he died, the Chu family would lose their first choice for support, and they would seek refuge with other princes. Therefore, for any prince who wants to win over the Chu family, the first thing he will most likely do is to get rid of the useless prince himself and completely eliminate the Chu family's worries. It really hurts my head. Originally, after he came to this world, he had always planned to lie down and enjoy happiness, and had no intention of competing for the throne. I didn't expect that just one life experience would bring me so much trouble. There is nothing you can do about it, your life experience is determined innately and cannot be changed. Now he only has two choices. One is to find a way to completely oppose the Chu family and make people think that he and the Chu family have broken off. Another option is to kill everyone who wants to get rid of him, so that he will be safe. Choosing the second option also meant that he embarked on the path of the emperor. From a personal perspective, Lu Chen would definitely not completely break with the Chu family. First of all, his grandfather has been very good to him since he was a child, and the Chu family has always sent people to protect him. Even his first love in this world, Chu Yukan, is also from the Chu family. He really couldn't do something like a complete break with the Chu family. And even if he and the Chu family really broke up completely, the princes would not necessarily let him go. After all, no one knew whether he and the Chu family were performing a double act for people to see. So getting rid of yourself is the best solution. In this way, those princes may still take action against him. That leaves only one last option. Take the path of the emperor. Lu Chen thought for a while, if it was before, it would be really difficult for him to compete with those princes for that position. But things are different now. He has a system of many children and many blessings. As long as he takes more concubines and has more children after going to Beijing, he will be able to improve his strength as soon as possible. That position may not be yours. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said to Mu Chongtian, "Thank you, father-in-law, for reminding me. I understand what you mean." After leaving the Mu mansion, Mu Zixuan asked cautiously in the carriage, "Your Majesty, what did Daddy say to you?" Lu Chen smiled slightly, and then hugged Mu Zixuan into his arms. "He didn't say anything. He told me to treat you well." At this time, Mu Zixuan was a little confused. She didn't know whether she should tell Lu Chen about the two Zhou sisters. After all, their identities were too sensitive. At this time, Lu Chen's hand gently stroked Mu Zixuan's hair and continued, "My beloved concubine, after arriving in Beijing, you must have more children for me." Hearing such direct words, Mu Zixuan's face instantly turned red. Although she was already a woman, she was new to this kind of thing after all. Seeing Mu Zixuan's shy expression, Lu Chen wanted to bully her immediately, but he held back in the end. At the same time, Royal Palace. Royal Garden. A middle-aged man wearing a yellow python robe stood in the pavilion of the lotus pond, watching the fish swimming around in the lotus pond with his hands behind his back. A man in black armor suddenly appeared behind him. "Your Majesty, King Bei just went to the Mu mansion. During this period, Duke Mu asked his servants to leave the hall and closed the door to talk to King Bei alone about something. After hearing this, Emperor Xia said to himself, "It seems that Mu Chongtian values Zaiju quite a lot." Having said this, Emperor Xia turned to look at the red-robed eunuch beside him. "Eunuch Lu, do you think the Chu family will give up on Zaiju after he leaves the capital this time?" Upon hearing this question, the red-robed eunuch immediately said, "Your Majesty, I dare not speak nonsense." Emperor Xia said somewhat unhappily, "Just say what you are told." The red-robed eunuch said quickly, "In my opinion, the Chu family will most likely abandon the northern king and choose to support other princes." Emperor Xia asked with great interest, "Oh? Then tell me, who is the Chu family most likely to choose?" Eunuch Lu was trembling with fear. He has been following Emperor Xia and knows some things that others don't know. Emperor Xia hates the Chu family so much that he even dreams of getting rid of the Chu family. If he said who the Chu family would support next, wouldn't he be harming other princes? Emperor Xia continued, "If you speak boldly, I will pardon your innocence." Eunuch Lu immediately knelt on the ground and said, "Your Majesty, I think the Chu family will most likely support the 8th prince. The 8th prince's mother-in-law is also from Jiangnan, so if the Chu family wants to choose someone to follow, their eyes will inevitably be on the 8th prince." After hearing Eunuch Liu's words, Emperor Xia just smiled faintly and murmured, "Support Xiao Ba, then I'm afraid Xiao Ju's journey will not be peaceful." At this time, the soldier in black armor behind Emperor Xia asked, "Your Majesty, do you want to send someone to protect His Royal Highness the North King?" Emperor Xia said indifferently, "No need, someone will protect him. If something happens to him, it can only be blamed on his lack of strength." Night. In the room, Lu Chen wanted to have a good communication with his beloved concubine, but when he thought about how much he had only bothered her yesterday and this morning, he gave up. Seeing that her husband seemed to be in pain, Mu Zixuan finally plucked up the courage and said, "My lord, how about you take in Yu Yu and Xiao Xiao?" Hearing this, Lu Chen's eyes lit up. He didn't expect his beloved concubine to be so generous. But he still said, "My dear concubine, how can you bear to push me to another woman?" Mu Zixuan blushed and said, "My lord, you have been staring at the two of them in the morning." How could she not guess what Lu Chen was thinking? Mu Zixuan continued, "Besides, the two of them are originally concubines' maids, and they should serve the prince as well." Lu Chen hugged Mu Zixuan and said, "How can a husband ask for a wife like this?" At this time, Mu Zixuan said to Zhou Yuyu and Zhou Xiao Xiao, "Yuyu, Xiao Xiao, come here." Then the candle light flickered in the room. Chapter 5 The day you return to the capital is the time when you rule the world. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting another wife and concubine. I will reward you with the qi refining technique. Ding! Congratulations to the host for getting another wife and concubine, rewarded with a rejuvenation hand. Ding! The host and his wife and concubine are connected with each other, and they get a Barrett and 20 rounds of Barrett bullets. Lu Chen, who was originally intoxicated with happiness, suddenly came back to his senses after hearing the system's prompt tone. He didn't expect to receive such a rich reward. He doesn't have a child yet, so if he has a child, wouldn't the reward be even richer? Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, the system prompt sounded. Ding! For the first communication between the host and his concubine, the rewards obtained will be richer. Only then did Lu Chen realize that this was the case. He thought he would get such rich rewards every time he communicated in the future. At this time, Lu Chen checked the newly obtained rewards. Qi refining technique, a legendary technique that can make people become immortals. It can be practiced by communicating with wives and concubines to cultivate feelings. Rejuvenation hand, you can use spiritual energy to treat some injuries and illnesses. When the rejuvenation hand is practiced to perfection, there is a chance of reviving a dying person. This technique can be practiced by communicating with wives and concubines to cultivate feelings. Seeing these two rewards, Lu Chen was stunned. Isn't this the world of Chinese martial arts? In this world, there can actually exist techniques such as qi refining technique and rejuvenation hand, which are only available in the world of cultivating immortals. But having said that, if one day he becomes an immortal, wouldn't the position of emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty be within his reach? Thinking of this, Lu Chen happily hugged Zhou Yuyu, Zhou Xiaoxiao and Mu Zixuan. You three are really my babies. Hearing this, the two sisters of the Zhou family were very happy. The two of them finally became the women of the northern king. When they go to Beijing, maybe they will no longer have to hide in hiding. But at this moment, Lu Chen suddenly said, "By the way, my beloved concubine, I feel like you are hiding something from me." Hearing this, Mu Zixuan was startled. She didn't expect Lu Chen's intuition to be so accurate. Lu Chen continued, "You are my wife now, and I don't really want my woman to hide things from me." Just when Mu Zixuan was about to say something, Lu Chen patted the waists of sisters Zhou Yuyu and Zhou Xiaoxiao, and then said with a smile, "If I guessed correctly, you two are Zhou Wangdian's daughters, right?" Hearing this, Mu Zixuan and the three girls were shocked. They did not expect that Lu Chen already knew about this. Zhou Yuyu and Zhou Xiaoxiao quickly got up from Lu Chen's arms, then knelt on the bed, kowtowing, and said, "Your Majesty makes atonement, Your Majesty makes atonement, we didn't mean to deceive you. This is all the fault of our two sisters. Please don't blame the princess." Mu Zixuan opened her mouth to say something, but finally shut up. After all, it was her fault in the first place. Zhou Wangtian and his father Mu Chongtian are collectively known as the two great kings of the Great Xia Dynasty, and the relationship between the two families has always been relatively good. The two sisters Mu Zixuan and the Zhou family were also sisters. She really couldn't bear to see them locked up in Jiao Fangxi and used as playthings for others. Seeing how panicked the two Zhou sisters were, Lu Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and then said with a smile, "It is indeed the three of you who did something wrong in this matter. Such an important thing was hidden from me. However, I can give you three a chance to make meritorious deeds." Hearing this, Mu Zixuan's brows widened instantly, and she immediately asked, "Your Majesty, do you know how we should make meritorious deeds?" Lu Chen looked at Zhou Yuyu and Zhou Xiaoxiao and said, "This is simple, you just need to give me a few children." Upon hearing this, the three women reacted instantly. Then Zhou Yuyu and Zhou Xiaoxiao quickly thanked and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for taking me in. We will definitely give you more children in the future." Lu Chen then said, "Okay, you two sisters go and rest first. When we get to Beijing, I will take you as my concubines." The two said in unison, "Yes, Your Majesty." Then the two limped out of the room and went to the adjacent room. After the two of them left, Mu Zixuan asked cautiously, "My lord, do you really plan to take them in?" Although Lu Chen was 3 years younger than her, Lu Chen was the prince after all, and Mu Zixuan was really unsure of Lu Chen's temper. Lu Chen pulled Mu Zixuan's delicate body over, hugged her directly, and then said in her ear, "If I didn't take them in, do you think I would have touched them just now?" Hearing this, Mu Zixuan reacted. Indeed, Lu Chen had obviously known the identities of the two Zhou sisters for a long time, but he didn't care at all about their identities just now. Lu Chen continued, "My beloved concubine, I hope this is the first and last time. Do you understand what I mean?" Mu Zixuan immediately said, "Yes, Your Majesty, I will never hide anything from Your Majesty in the future." Lu Chen kissed Mu Zixuan, then stroked her body and said, "This is my beloved concubine. By the way, I am also the kind of unreasonable person. You don't need to be so cautious. After all, you are the mistress of this family." Mu Zixuan is 3 years older than him, but looking at her appearance in the past 2 days, she looks like a little woman. She is cautious whether she speaks or does things, giving people the feeling that she is an outsider. Mu Zixuan blushed and said, "My lord, I will adapt to my status as soon as possible." Lu Chen continued, "Also, from now on I will call you husband." Mu Zixuan whispered, "Yes, husband. Okay, go to bed early, we will leave for Beijing tomorrow." Then Lu Chen hugged Mu Zixuan's fragrant and soft body and fell asleep. Early the next morning, the sky was still grey and bright, so the people in Buwang Mansion got up and started to prepare. Lu Chen didn't have the habit of getting up early, but since he was leaving the capital today, he could only get up early from the warm fragrance of nephrite. Lu Chen stood at the door of Buwang Mansion, looking at the entire Buwang Mansion, feeling a little sad in his heart. Buwang Mansion carries his memories from childhood to adulthood, and every bit of the past plays in his mind like a movie. After leaving this time, I don't know when I can come back again. After all, the feudal king cannot return to the capital without an order. Lu Chen secretly made up his mind that he must grow up as soon as possible. The day he returns to the capital is the day when he rules the world. At this moment, not far away, a group of soldiers wearing armor came to the gate of Buwang Mansion on horseback. When the leading General Li Feng saw Lu Chen, he immediately knelt down and said, "General Li Feng, I would like to pay my respects to the prince. This time the prince is going to Beijing to join the feudal clan. His subordinates will do their best to protect the safety of the prince and his family." At this time, Lu Chen's eyes exuded a gaze that was difficult for others to detect, and an information bar appeared in front of Lu Chen. Name, Li Feng. Identity, one of the generals in the Great Xia Tiger Army, and now the temporary guard general of the Northern King of Great Xia. Strength, 7th grade. Loyalty, 50. Seeing this information column, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. It turned out that the Duo Zi Duo Fu system could also display men's information. This is very useful to him. Chapter 6 My good brother, have a good journey. Lu Chen was very satisfied with Mu Changtian's arrangement. Even though Li Feng was only a 7th level warrior, in the world of low martial arts, the strength of a 7th level warrior could be regarded as 100 enemies. Moreover, the soldiers Li Feng brought were basically 2nd and 3rd grade soldiers, and there were no ordinary soldiers. In other words, they are all elites, no cannon fodder. Lu Chen then said, "General Li, get up. I believe that you are strong enough to protect me and my family." "Thank you, Your Majesty." After the words fell, Li Feng stood up. Then Li Feng said in Lu Chen's ear, "Your Majesty, Duke Mu asked me to remind you that the 8th prince has sent people to Beijing." Hearing this, Lu Chen frowned slightly and thought for a moment. The 8th prince? Lu Shiyun? What did he send people to North County for? Kill yourself? Lu Chen quickly understood that Lu Shiyun's mother-in-law was also from a wealthy family in Jiangnan, so Lu Shiyun needed the Chu family's support the most if he wanted to seize the title. As long as he dies, the Chu family will definitely choose the descendants of the same Jiangnan family. Unexpectedly, Mu Changtian could even find out such information. It seems that although Mu Changtian has been relieved of his position, he still has control over the army. No wonder his father was so afraid of Mu Changtian. Lu Chen then said, "Okay, I understand." Then Lu Chen got on his horse and said, "Now that everyone is here, let's set off. Let's get to Beijing as soon as possible." Lu Chen now only wants to reach Beijing and start his own cultivation path. Both the qi refining technique and the rejuvenation hand require cultivating relationships with one's wives and concubines before they can be practiced. The so-called cultivating relationships is a matter between men and women. But being on the road is obviously inconvenient, and you must have a stable place. As for the threats on the road, Lu Chen didn't take them to heart. Below the Grand Master, all are mortals. Mortals cannot stop bullets, and the Desert Eagle and Barrett in his hands are not vegetarians. Then the people from the North Palace lined up and left the city in a mighty manner. Unlike when Lu Chen got married, no minister from the court came to see him off today, not even his father-in-law. There were only people watching the theater on both sides of the road. Lu Chen didn't care much about this. It didn't matter if someone gave it to him or not. When the motorcade passed a restaurant, a man in blue brocade clothes on the second floor of the restaurant looked at the figures gradually receding. At this time, the man asked, "Are you ready?" "Don't worry, Your Highness, we have made arrangements. Blood Moon Tower has sent an 8th grade and 2 9th grade people there this time. As long as they leave the capital's jurisdiction, the people from the Blood Moon Tower will take action immediately." After hearing what his men said, Lu Shiyun looked at Lu Chen who was on horseback, and then said to himself, "If Chu Yukin hadn't gone to Beijing with you this time, I wouldn't have chosen this method. Good brother, have a nice journey." Originally, Lu Shiyun thought that after Lu Chen left the capital, the Chu family would completely give up on him. After all, even Emperor Xia had already driven him to the bitter cold of North County. What Lu Shiyun didn't expect was that Chu Yukin, a 9th-level master, would actually follow Lu Chen to Beijing. What does this mean? It shows that the Chu family has no intention of giving up on Lu Chen. Otherwise, the Chu family would not be able to let Chu Yukin go with him. Since the Chu family has not given up yet, it can only help the Chu family make up their mind. It didn't take long. Lu Chen and the others left the city. After leaving the city, Chu Yukin frowned slightly when she saw Lu Chen riding a horse. Those people inside the city did not dare to take action, but it was different outside the city. Lu Chen was riding a horse, and his target was too obvious. If someone else were to shoot an arrow, they would be hard to guard against. Chu Yukin immediately rode her horse to Lu Chen's side. "Chener, you'd better get back to the carriage." Lu Chen turned to look at Chu Yukin, and then said, "Don't worry, Aunt Chu, even if someone wants to attack me, they won't be near the capital." Chu Yukin said, "You're not afraid of 10,000, just in case. You'd better listen to your aunt and go to the carriage to stay." Chu Yukin's tone was a little serious. After all, this involved Lu Chen's safety, so he couldn't be careless. At this time, Li Feng also came from a distance. "Your Majesty, we are about to leave the jurisdiction of the capital. You'd better go to the carriage. The carriages sent by Duke Mu are reinforced and can withstand most arrows." Seeing them both saying this, Lu Chen didn't intend to continue to be stubborn. Now he is only a first-grade warrior, and his physical fitness is better than that of ordinary people. If someone really attacks him, he still won't be able to react. Lu Chen then said, "Okay, I'll leave the surrounding safety to you. If there is any trouble, please notify me immediately." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen returned to the reinforced carriage Mu Chongtian had prepared for him. At this time, Lu Chen and his princess Mu Zixuan were separated. If someone really attacked Lu Chen, Mu Zixuan and the others might survive even if something happened to Lu Chen. The carriage convoy advanced slowly on the official road. Not long after leaving the jurisdiction of the capital, a dense forest appeared in front of the straight road. Li Feng immediately reminded the soldiers of the escort team, "Cheer up! Pay attention to your surroundings." Chu Yukin also said to the royal guards, "From now on, don't leave the carriage for even one step." After the convoy entered the forest, the light suddenly dimmed a lot. Lu Chen looked outside through the window and saw that the light had become so dark. Lu Chen also realized that he might be in danger. Then Lu Chen took out the Desert Eagle from the system space and loaded the Desert Eagle with bullets. The Desert Eagle has 500 bullets, which is probably enough, and he doesn't need to deal with the miscellaneous fish. Li Feng and the others will deal with the miscellaneous fish. He only needs to deal with the masters who come straight to him. Just as the convoy entered the depths of the forest, a sound came from the distance, followed by countless arrows falling from the sky. Li Feng immediately said loudly, the enemy is attacking. Protect the prince. Seeing this, Chu Yukin quickly pulled out the sword from her waist. After hearing various sounds outside, Lu Chen became a little nervous. He didn't expect that an enemy was really coming. At this time, he heard the sound of crush coming from the carriage, and he knew it was caused by the arrow hitting the carriage. I have to say that the carriage sent by Mu Kuagong was really powerful. It actually blocked all the arrows fired by the opponent. In this way, as long as he doesn't go out, those arrows can't hurt him. After the first round of arrow rain passed, some people wearing black clothes, wearing masks, and holding large knives rushed directly towards the convoy. The strength of these people is basically around the 3rd level, and the leader is an 8th level warrior. Upon seeing this, Li Feng immediately led his escort team to fight with the assassins. At this time, Lu Chen's personal guards still did not leave the carriage. Their main task was to protect Lu Chen and his family and prevent the enemy from attacking in the east or west. Chu Yukin didn't go to help Li Feng. She stood not far from Lu Chen's carriage, always paying attention to her surroundings. Chu Yukin didn't think that the other party would only send an 8th level warrior. To be able to summon so many 3rd and 4th grade warriors at once, the force behind the assassin is definitely not simple. The other party must also have 9th grade warriors coming. Just when Chu Yukin was alerting the surroundings, a breeze blew through the woods, and the falling leaves turned into 2 halves in the air and slowly fell to the ground. A sharp light flashed in Chu Yukin's eyes. The real enemy is here. Chapter 7 Boy, why are you laughing? As soon as Chu Yukin was ready, a black figure appeared on her right side, and then stabbed her body with a sword. Chu Yukin lightly kicked her feet, and her body flew directly into the air like a feather. Then she turned around and swiped her sword at the assassin. The assassin quickly retreated. As expected of a female swordsman trained by the Chu family. Her reaction speed is fast enough. Hearing this voice, Chu Yukin could see the other party's face clearly. There were 2 people, and neither of them were wearing face coverings. Judging from the aura exuded by these 2 people, they are at least 9th grade warriors. Those 3rd level warriors all wore masks, but the 2 main characters did not wear masks. What does this mean? It shows that the other person doesn't care that their face will be seen by others. Or in their opinion, they can kill people and silence them today. Either the faces of these 2 people are fake and they used the disguise technique. Of course, neither that is important now. What is important is how to deal with these 2 people. At this time, Chu Yukin noticed that the 2 people had a red moon pattern on their clothes. Chu Yukin instantly guessed their origins. Chu Yukin said coldly, "Does Suiyu Tower know what it is doing?" The person in the carriage is King Bei. If your majesty knows that King Bei was assassinated by Suiyu Tower, I'm afraid your Suiyu Tower will be destroyed soon. Hearing this, Lu Tong laughed loudly. Mrs. Chu really likes to joke. If Emperor Xia had the ability to deal with us, he would have wiped out our Blood Moon Tower long ago, and there is no need to wait until today. At this time, Bai Hong next to Lu Tong said calmly, "Mrs. Chu, we have no intention of becoming enemies of the Chu family. As long as Mrs. Chu gets out of the way, we will not take action against you." After hearing Bai Hong's words, Chu Yukin clenched the sword in her hand and said coldly, "If you dare to touch King Bei, you will become the enemy of the Chu family." Lu Tong said, "Come on, King Bei, a loser, has been abandoned by Emperor Xia. He will never inherit the throne. What reason do you Chu family have to support him?" Bai Hong also said, "Mrs. Chu, we also charge money to do things. If Mrs. Chu insists on blocking it, don't blame the sword for not having an eye." Chu Yukin clenched the sword in her hand and swung it into the air, and a sword energy flew out, directly drawing a line between them. This is the bottom line, anyone who crosses it will die. Bai Hong and Lu Tong saw that Chu Yukin was unwilling to give way, so they had no choice but to force themselves forward. To be honest, they were actually unwilling to confront Chu Yukin. Although they are both 9th grade, there is a big difference between 9th grade and 9th grade. Although Chu Yukin is just a woman, she is very talented in kendo and is even very famous throughout Daxia. But since Chu Yukin was unwilling to get out of the way, there was only one battle left. Bai Hong immediately said to Lu Tong, "Elder Lu, you find a way to hold him back while I go and deal with that useless prince." Lu Tong took out his big hammer and said with a smile, "Okay, I have long wanted to see Mrs. Chu's sword. I want to see how powerful the Chu family's first female swordsman is." As he spoke, Lu Tong kicked his legs and his body flew towards Chu Yukin like a cannonball. Chu Yukin frowned, swung out her sword, and a sword energy flew out. Chu Yukin's body was very light, floating around like a feather. Because of her light body, her sword is also very fast. After just one move, Lu Tong was almost stabbed in the body by Chu Yukin's sword. Seeing that Chu Yukin's sword had cut off his hair, Lu Tong immediately said to Bai Hong, "Elder Bai, don't waste time." Lu Tong didn't expect Chu Yukin's sword to be so fast, and it almost killed him in just one encounter. Bai Hong also knew that Lu Tong might not be Chu Yukin's opponent, so he immediately rushed to the convoy. Seeing this, Chu Yukin kicked her toes slightly, and her body instantly flew out like an arrow. Then Chu Yukin swung his sword towards Bai Hong. Bai Hong turned his head instantly and raised his hand to block Chu Yukin's sword. Bai Hong said to Lu Tong at this time, "Elder Lu, I will drag her." Upon hearing this, Lu Tong's body disappeared directly on the spot and went straight to the carriage where Lu Chen was. After Lu Chen's personal guards saw it, they all rushed over and tried to block Lu Tong's progress. But Lu Tong was a 9th grade warrior after all. One of his bodyguards was killed with one hammer blow. Lu Chen's personal guards had no power to resist in front of Lu Tong. Seeing this scene, Li Feng in the distance became anxious. This is trouble. He immediately ran towards Lu Chen's carriage, but just a few steps out, he was stopped by the 8th level warrior, "General Li, your opponent is me." Chu Yukin also realized that Lu Chen would be in danger. She immediately swung her sword wildly, and the shadows of the sword swept through the woods, and the surrounding trees were instantly split into countless pieces. However, Bai Hong is not simple either. He can always avoid Chu Yukin's sword. After all, he is a 9th grade warrior. Although he may not be as powerful as Chu Yukin, there is still no big problem in dragging Chu Yukin. Chu Yukin suddenly became anxious, seeing that Lu Tong was approaching the carriage where Lu Chen was. If he continued to be dragged down like this, Lu Chen's life would be in danger. When Lu Chen's mother passed away, she promised to protect Lu Chen. If something happened to Lu Chen, how would she face her sister who was sworn to Jinlan after she died? We must not let anything happen to Lu Chen. Chu Yukin ignored Bai Hong and went straight to kill Lu Tong. Seeing Chu Yukin avoid him, Bai Hong rushed forward and blocked Chu Yukin's way. At this time, Lu Tong had already arrived in front of Lu Chen's carriage. He didn't know which carriage Lu Chen was in, but he was ready to search one carriage at a time. Lu Tong went over with a hammer, and the door of the carriage was instantly smashed. At this time, Lu Chen was sitting in the carriage. Seeing that he found Lu Chen in the first carriage he smashed, Lu Tong laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, it seems I'm lucky." Chu Yukin's face instantly turned pale in the distance. "It's over. Chener." Li Feng was also extremely panicked. He also wanted to save Lu Chen, but the person in front of him was an 8th level warrior, and he himself was only a 7th level warrior. He couldn't escape at all. When everyone thought that King Bei was going to die here, Lu Chen showed a smile. Seeing this scene, Lu Tong was stunned in front of Lu Chen. Lu Tong asked in confusion, "Boy, why are you laughing?" Lu Chen didn't say anything, he raised his hand and shot. Boom! With the sound of a gunshot, Lu Tong's body slowly fell backwards. His pupils were constricted and his eyes were wide open, as if he couldn't believe that he was dead like this. At this time, everyone paying attention to Lu Chen was stunned. People didn't react at all. It was obvious that King Bei was bound to die, so why did the 9th level warrior fall to the ground just as soon as King Bei raised his hand? Also, what was that sound just now? What exactly is going on? Lu Tong's death directly frightened the people present at Suiyu Tower. Lu Tong is a 9th level warrior. In the end, he just glanced at King Bei and died. Even Chu Yukin looked at Lu Chen in disbelief. She was already ready to try her best to avenge Lu Chen, but things turned around in an instant. Chu Yukin had basically guessed how Lu Tong died. Lu Tong's death must be related to the black stick-like thing in Lu Chen's hand. But she couldn't believe that that thing could kill a 9th level warrior in an instant. At this moment, everything seemed to have pressed the pause button, and both sides had even forgotten to fight. Chapter 8. Are you hiding something from your aunt? After a long time, Chu Yukin finally came back to her senses. Her eyes flashed with murderous intent. The 9th grade warrior who assassinated Lu Chen was dead. The 9th grade warrior in front of her could never be let go. Although I don't know what the thing in Lu Chen's hand is, it can give an ordinary person the ability to kill a 9th level warrior. This proves that that thing is very powerful. If this matter spreads, it will definitely cause turmoil in the entire world. At this time, Bai Hong was still shocked that Lu Tong fell to the ground instantly. He just reacted and wanted to escape from this place. However, at the moment when Bai Hong was lost in thought, it seemed to be raining in the sky, and the shadows of raindrops and petals fell slowly. The next moment, several white lights appeared around Bai Hong's body. Only then did Bai Hong react. His expression changed drastically, not good. At this moment, Chu Yukin spoke softly. 9 sword flowers rain fall. The next moment, the shadows of raindrops and petals became extremely manic, attacking Bai Hong's body crazily. In battles between 9th grade warriors, the outcome is often decided in an instant. When a warrior is distracted, it is easy for his opponent to seize the opportunity. Chu Yukin seized the opportunity when Bai Hong was distracted and directly used her most powerful swordsmanship. Seeing Bai Hong slowly fall to the ground in front of Chu Yukin, Lu Chen was stunned. Chu Yukin drew the sword too fast just now, and he didn't see it clearly at all. When he reacted, he just saw a few white sword lights flashing from the 9th level warrior's body, and then he fell to the ground. Is this the strength of a 9th grade warrior? So strong. Although Lu Chen himself had just killed a 9th level warrior, he did it with a firearm after all. He was still very eager to improve in martial arts as soon as possible. Firearms are always an external possession. If it were like the situation just now, and someone used a firearm while others were not paying attention, then killing a 9th level warrior would be the same as killing a chicken. But if the other party is on guard, it may not be so easy for him to kill a 9th grade warrior. Especially after seeing the speed of Chu Yukin's sword, Lu Chen's inner complacency in killing the 9th level warrior disappeared instantly. The people in the Blood Moon Tower saw their 2 elders falling to the ground and knew that the mission had failed, so they ran away one after another. Get out! Get out! The 8th level warrior who was fighting with Li Feng saw that the 2 9th level warriors were dead. He knew that if he continued like this, he might die here, so he turned around and ran away into the woods without hesitation. Seeing that the people in the Blood Moon Tower were about to escape, Chu Yukin said coldly to the escort team and the royal guards, "Kill, don't let anyone go." Then the situation changed instantly. Li Feng led his soldiers and the palace guards to surround and suppress the remaining Blood Moon Tower assassins. Although the strength of these assassins is also at the 3rd or 4th level, these assassins are just here to make up the numbers. Their main task is to hold off the escort team and the royal guards until Lu Chen is assassinated by their elders. Now that their mission has failed, they have only one way to escape. At the same time, Lu Chen saw that the 8th level warrior from the Blood Moon Tower was about to run away, so he walked out of the carriage and took out Barrett. He hadn't used this gun yet and wanted to try it out. Originally, Chu Yukan planned to chase the 8th level warrior, but when she saw the black stick-like thing in Lu Chen's hand, Chu Yukan was stunned for a moment. At this time, Lu Chen quickly lay down on the ground, and then pointed the black stick at the fleeing 8th level warrior of Blood Moon Tower. Gang! With a dull and loud sound, the head of the escaping 8th level warrior suddenly blossomed. Chu Yukan stayed where she was again. At such a long distance, an 8th level warrior disappeared in an instant. She grew up watching Lu Chen, but she never knew that Lu Chen had such a powerful weapon. Whether it was 8th grade or 9th grade, it was just a matter of glance in front of Lu Chen. Seeing the black metal rod, Chu Yukan, a 9th level warrior, couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Both 8th and 9th grade warriors are capable of fighting in front of a Grandmaster. Even powerful 9th grade warriors can compete with Grandmaster level warriors. However, the 8th and 9th grades, which were once fought over by various major forces, were treated like chickens and killed by Lu Chen, an ordinary person. Chu Yukan knew very well that Lu Chen had never practiced martial arts. Lu Chen had grown up under her protection, and she did not want Lu Chen to suffer the pain of practicing martial arts. What does it mean that an ordinary person, holding an unknown weapon, can instantly kill 8th and 9th grade warriors? This means that once the weapons in Lu Chen's hands are popularized, the entire martial arts world will be overthrown, and from now on, the status of martial artists will plummet. After a long while, Chu Yukan recovered. Now is not the time to think about these things, the top priority is to quickly deal with the assassins in the Blood Moon Tower. Then Chu Yukan kicked her toes and ran towards the assassins in the Blood Moon Tower. Without the 9th grade warriors in Blood Moon Tower to contain Chu Yukan, those 3rd grade warriors were no more than ants in front of Chu Yukan. Everywhere Chu Yukan passed by, there were corpses of Blood Moon Tower assassins. Soon, all the assassins in Blood Moon Tower were surrounded and suppressed. Of course, Lu Chen and the others also paid a heavy price. There were only about 100 people left in the escort team brought by Li Feng, and there were only 50 or 60 royal guards who survived. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Lu Chen's heart didn't waver at all. Lu Chen knew very well that the road to the emperor must be a road paved with blood. Today's fight is just the beginning. Just when Lu Chen was distracted looking at the corpse, a graceful figure appeared behind Lu Chen. "Chener, tell me honestly, are you hiding something from your aunt?" There was a hint of resentment in Chu Yukan's tone. Her aunt had watched Lu Chen grow up, and she even arranged all the work in the palace, but she didn't know when Lu Chen had such a terrifying weapon. That weapon definitely didn't belong to Lu Chen, there was no need to think about it. Now she just wants to know who provided Lu Chen with such a terrifying weapon, and what the other party's purpose was. There is no free lunch in the world. There must be some conditions for the other party to provide Lu Chen with such a powerful weapon. Chu Yukan was very afraid that Lu Chen would fall into a bigger conspiracy. Chu Yukan now just wants Lu Chen to live a peaceful life after going to Beijing. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment after hearing Chu Yukan's voice. He just wanted to test the power of the firearm, and had no idea how to explain it next. Those were 8th and 9th grade warriors, and they disappeared in an instant in front of him. If word of this spread. At this time, Lu Chen turned to look at Chu Yukan, and replied with an innocent and bright smile, "Aunt Chu, what can I hide from you?" Seeing Lu Chen quarreling in front of her and trying to cover up the past, Chu Yukan sighed and continued to ask, "Tell me, who gave you those 2 weapons in your hand just now?" Lu Chen pretended to be stupid and said, "Weapon, what weapon?" Chu Yukan rolled her eyes at Lu Chen, "Do you think your aunt is blind?" At this time, Lu Chen took out the black desert eagle from his arms, and then removed the magazine. "Is this what you are talking about?" Chapter 9 You have grown up. Looking at the desert eagle in Lu Chen's hand, Chu Yukan was slightly startled. After all, this was a weapon that allowed an ordinary person to instantly kill a 9th level warrior. Lu Chen saw that Chu Yukin was very curious about the desert eagle, so he handed her the desert eagle with the magazine unloaded. After Chu Yukin took the desert eagle, she rubbed it repeatedly with her white hands. She was very curious, how did this little thing kill a 9th level warrior? Chu Yukin then asked, Chener, where did you get this weapon? After all, Chu Yukin was also a warrior and had seen a lot of weapons. The moment she got started, she could tell that the materials used to make the Desert Eagle were not ordinary, and the precision of this weapon was beyond people's imagination. It is even possible that the royal family of the Xia Dynasty did not have such materials and could not make such sophisticated weapons. Although Lu Chen relied on this mysterious weapon to survive, Chu Yukin felt a little guilty at this time. She had always protected Lu Chen's safety, but she still allowed the provider of this mysterious weapon to come into contact with Lu Chen. What if the other party didn't provide Lu Chen with weapons, but wanted to kill Lu Chen? I can't imagine the consequences. Lu Chen replied with a smile, Aunt Chu, if I said that I had people make the parts and then spliced them together myself, would you believe it? Chu Yukin snorted lightly and said, Your aunt, I am not a fool. Lu Chen pretended to be an adult and said, Aunt Chu, I am a man too, and it is normal to have some little secrets about men. 69 SHUXCOM. Originally, Lu Chen was just joking, but after hearing this, Chu Yukin fell into silence. Since Lu Chen lost his mother when he was 10 years old, Chu Yukin has been taking care of Lu Chen and treating him as his own child. Now that Lu Chen was 16 years old and married, she still subconsciously regarded him as a child. Seeing that Chu Yukin didn't speak, Lu Chen asked doubtfully, Aunt Chu, what are you thinking about? Is there anything wrong with what I said? Chu Yukin came back to her senses. She handed the Desert Eagle back to Lu Chen with a happy smile on her face, Chener, you are right. You have grown up and are a man. Auntie, don't you? It's time to continue treating you like a child. But I still want to remind you that the person who provides you with weapons must have a big conspiracy, so you have to be careful. In addition, the 2 weapons on your body must not be known to outsiders, otherwise even if you arrive in Beijing, you will attract a steady stream of assassinations from strong men in the world. Lu Chen said, Well, don't worry, Aunt Chu, I know the pros and cons of this. Chu Yukin said, Okay, you go and see Zixuan and the others first. Then Chu Yukin turned around and left, coming to Li Feng and the others. At this time, Li Feng and others were cleaning up the corpse. Seeing Chu Yukin coming over, Li Feng immediately asked, Mrs. Chu, is the prince okay? Chu Yukin said calmly, Well, it's okay. At this point, Chu Yukin reminded, General Li, I hope you and your soldiers can pretend that you didn't see what happened today. Hearing Chu Yukin's words, Li Feng instantly understood what Chu Yukin meant. She was obviously talking about King Bei's instant killing of a 9th grade warrior. It was rumored by the outside world that King Bei was just a good-for-nothing prince who knew nothing about martial arts and didn't read much. He only cared about eating, drinking, and having fun all day long. When Mu Chongtian found Li Feng and hoped that Li Feng could protect the northern king and go to Beijing to join the vassal, Li Feng was still a little reluctant. But when I saw it today, I'm afraid everyone was wrong. King Bei has such a terrifying weapon in his hands. It is obvious that he cannot be such a simple waste. That's a 9th grade warrior. The strength is second only to the 9th grade of the Grand Master. Just one more glance at King Bei, and the 9th grade warrior was gone. There was also the 8th grade warrior. At such a long distance, Li Feng thought that he might not be able to kill that 8th grade warrior even if he shot an arrow. 8th level warriors have spiritual energy in their bodies. When an arrow enters their body, they can also control their muscles to clamp the arrow. However, King Bei didn't know what kind of weapon he used, and he actually blew up the 8th level warrior's head instantly from such a long distance. Moreover, at that time, King Bei was just lying on the ground, not moving at all. To shoot an arrow, he needed to draw the bow. But as soon as King Bei lay down like this, the life of that 8th level warrior came to an end. This is enough to show how terrifying the weapon in King Bei's hand is. The King of the North has such a terrifying weapon, but he does not fight for the throne, and is even willing to go to Beijun. What does this mean? Li Feng didn't dare to continue thinking. He even doubted whether he would be killed by King Bei. Although he was the general of the escort team of the Northern King, he was also the general of the Great Xia army. King Bei may not trust people like them. Thinking of this, Li Feng and others broke out in cold sweat on their backs. After Chu Yukan reminded Li Feng and the others, she turned and left. Looking at Chu Yukan's back, a soldier whispered beside Li Feng, "General, General, we won't be silenced after we arrive in Beijun, right?" The soldiers who followed Li Feng were all elites in the Tiger Army, and they were not stupid. They also knew very well what it meant to have a weapon that could instantly kill a 9th level warrior. In the eyes of everyone at this moment, King Bei must have a big conspiracy, so in order to prevent what happened today from leaking out, King Bei will most likely silence them. In order to comfort the remaining more than 100 soldiers, Li Feng immediately said, "You kid, don't talk nonsense. We are from Duke Mu, who is King Bei's father-in-law. King Bei must trust us." After hearing what Li Feng said, the soldiers reacted. Yes, Duke Mu is the father-in-law of the Northern King, and Duke Mu's daughter is still a princess. Aren't these soldiers from Duke Mu's faction equivalent to being from the Northern King's side? Then why did the Northern King kill his own people? Thinking of this, the soldiers also breathed a sigh of relief. However, Li Feng was still worried at this time. Although these people belong to Mu Kuogong's faction, they are also the Huban army of Daxia. After they sent the Northern King to Beijun, they were going back to the capital. Will King Bei really trust people like them? This is impossible to say. But there is no other way now. Only when we get to Beijun can we know the true thoughts of King Bei. After cleaning the scene, Lu Chen and his convoy set off again and continued to Beijun. A few hours later, a certain restaurant. Lu Shiyun sat in front of the window, quietly waiting for the news to come. At this time, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, those people should have come back long ago, but there was still no news yet. At this moment, a man in grey clothes came out in a panic. "Your Highness, something serious has happened." As soon as the man entered the room, he knelt down. Lu Shiyun frowned, and then asked coldly, "What happened?" The man immediately replied, "The Blood Moon Tower failed, and no one they sent out came back alive, including the 2 9th grade masters. Now the owner of the Blood Moon building is furious, thinking that we deliberately cheated them, and demanding compensation from us." Chapter 10 The Chu family is not the Chu family of the Chu family. After hearing his subordinate's words, Lu Shiyun's face darkened instantly. 2 9th level warriors, 1 8th level warrior, and hundreds of 3rd level warriors could not even kill a useless prince. Not only was the assassination unsuccessful, but all of them were left behind, and none of them came back. The more Lu Shiyun thought about it, the angrier he became, and he flew into a rage. He slapped his palm on the table, and the bowls and pots on the table were shattered in an instant. Trash, it's all trash. He just couldn't figure out how this could fail. They had found out how many people King Bei had on his trip north this time, and the only ones who were stronger were Chu Yukan and Li Feng. Apart from the two of them, there weren't even a few 5th grade people in the team. As a result, the Blood Moon Tower actually failed. This can all fail. What do the assassins of Blood Moon Tower eat, and what are their uses? There are 2 9th grade men, even if they can't do anything with Chu Yukan, they can still let one of them hold Chu Yukan down, and then the other one can deal with the useless prince. But they just failed. Now Sui Yulu actually has the nerve to seek compensation from them? You can't even kill a useless prince, and you still want compensation? After his anger was almost gone, Lu Chen calmed down a little, and he asked expressionlessly, "Has the Blood Moon Tower found out why their operation failed?" The man kneeling on the ground immediately replied, "Back to your highness, when Suiyu Tower sent people to inquire about the situation, they found that the bodies of some members of Suiyu Tower had been burned. When Lu Chen and the others left, they buried all the corpses of their own people, and the corpses of some of the assassins in the Blood Moon Tower were piled together and burned. Although it wasted some time, Chu Yukan thought it was necessary, especially the 2 people killed by Lu Chen. Warriors can judge how the person died through the wounds on the body. In order to prevent the people of Suiyu Tower from discovering the state of their death, Chu Yukan used this method of directly destroying the corpse and eliminating traces. After hearing the report from his subordinates, Lu Chen suddenly became even more angry. Even if the mission failed, he didn't even know how their people died. At this time, the subordinate next to Lu Chen said, "Your Highness, I suspect that there is a master-level expert hidden in King Bei's fleet." Hearing his subordinate's speculation, Lu Chen's brain froze for a moment, and then fell into silence, with the expression on his face constantly changing. After a while, Lu Chen's eyes flashed with hatred. "If this is the case, then this waste should disappear from this world." The subordinate next to him said again, "Your Highness, don't worry, our people have arrived in Beijun. Even if he is protected by master-level experts, they will relax after a long time." Lu Chen didn't say anything more, and now he could only wait slowly. Fortunately, he had a backup plan. Lu Chen looked up at the window and said to himself, "My good brother, I hope you can always be so lucky." At the same time, everyone with status in the capital basically knew about the failed assassination in the Blood Moon Tower, and it was not known who released the news. Royal Palace. Royal Garden. Emperor Xia felt a little incredible when he saw the news from the Shadow Guard. At this time, sitting in front of Emperor Xia was a white-haired old man. Seeing Emperor Xia looking at the note in his hand with a surprised expression, the old man asked, "Your Majesty, what happened?" Emperor Xia came to his senses, and then tore up the note in his hand. "I didn't expect that there might be a Grand Master around Xiaoju. The Chu family is really generous." Hearing this, the old man in front of Emperor Xia was stunned for a moment. Emperor Xia continued, "Master, do you think the Chu family really wants to support Xiaoju, or are they deliberately diverting attention?" The old man in front of Emperor Xia was Synopsis, the pillar of the Great Xia Dynasty. He was also the national advisor of the Great Xia Dynasty and often gave advice to Emperor Xia. Regarding Emperor Xia's question, Synopsis pondered for a moment, and then replied, "I think this is Chu Xiang's personal behavior and does not represent the will of the entire Chu family." Emperor Xia smiled and said, "Oh? Why does the imperial master think so?" Synopsis replied, "Beijun is a bitter cold place. Even if the king of the north arrives in Beijun, it will be difficult to develop Beijun, let alone recruit troops and accumulate strength. The Chu family is not the Chu family of the Chu family. It is impossible for them to support a prince who has completely lost his qualifications to seize the throne under such circumstances. But Chu Xiang is different. Chu Xiang is the grandfather of the northern king, and there is still a blood relationship between them. So I think Chu Xiang sent people to protect King Bei because he was his grandson, not because of the interests of the Chu family." After hearing what Synopsis said, Emperor Xia stood up from the stone bench and said with a smile, "The words of the imperial master are quite interesting. The Chu family is not the Chu family of the Chu family. Ha ha ha, this reminds me of myself. This Daxia is also not my Daxia. The Chu family is already tied to the forces in Jiangnan, so it is impossible for the Chu family to mindlessly support a prince who has no hope of seizing the throne. If they must do this, it will conflict with those forces, and then the Chu family will the possibility of falling apart. So the Chu family is not the Chu family of the Chu family." And Emperor Xia also thought of himself because of Synopsis' words. The Chu family cannot do what they want to do, and the same is true for him as the emperor. Whatever he wants to do, he will also be restrained by various forces, especially the major aristocratic families, including the Chu family. Duke Mu's mansion. Mu Changtian's hands trembled a little when he saw the flying pigeon passing the letter in his hand. This letter was sent back by Li Feng, and it was written in the letter that they encountered an ambush by the Blood Moon Tower assassins. When Mu Changtian saw the letter saying that Suiyu Tower had sent 2 9th-level warriors and 1 8th-level warrior, he thought something had really happened to King Bei. As a result, at the end of the letter, Li Feng told him that a mysterious master appeared and killed 2 9th-grade masters in the Blood Moon Tower. This made Mu Changtian a little curious. A mysterious master? Who was sent to protect King Bei? Could it be that the mysterious master comes from the palace? Thinking of this, Mu Changtian looked in the direction of the palace, but he quickly rejected the idea. Emperor Xia didn't regard King Bei as his child at all. He even thought that King Bei was a stain on his life. How could he send someone to protect him? At the same time, Lu Chen and the others have continued to set off. In the next month, Lu Chen was not assassinated. This is mainly due to a certain rumor in the capital. Now people think that there is a Grand Master beside Lu Chen who is protecting Lu Chen. With the Grand Master around, those forces will not be so stupid as to send people to assassinate him. Of course, people didn't think that the Grand Master would always be by Lu Chen's side to protect him. There were not many masters at the Grand Master level in the entire Xia kingdom. How could they keep protecting a useless prince? In people's opinion, the Grand Master would only protect the North King and leave after reaching Beijing. I recommend a novel with the same theme that I wrote. If you like it, you can follow it. Chapter 11 Mu Zixuan is pregnant. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. After nearly 2 months of hard work, Lu Chen's motorcade finally arrived in Beijing. Along the way, when Lu Chen and the others passed through various counties, the officials of each county received them well. When Lu Chen was on the road, he also communicated with his wife and concubines, but because he was on the road, he basically didn't communicate seriously. Lu Chen didn't practice much in the qi refining technique and the rejuvenation spell. After seeing the demarcation line in Beijing, Lu Chen's 2 months of fatigue disappeared. There are no cement roads in this world, and people would be killed while riding in a carriage. Now that he has arrived in North County, his plan to have a baby can finally be implemented. Thinking of this, Lu Chen asked people to speed up and go to his new mansion. Soon, Lu Chen and his team arrived at Yancheng in Beijing. There are 13 cities in Beijing, the most prosperous of which is Yancheng, which will also serve as Lu Chen's royal city in the future. When Lu Chen's motorcade appeared in Yancheng, all Yancheng officials came out to greet them, and the people of Yancheng also stood on both sides of the road. At this time, many people in the crowd were whispering about King Bei. We in the north finally have a vassal king. What's the use? King Bei is only 16 years old, still a child. I heard that King Bei is an uneducated person. He was driven to Bei County for this reason. I don't know if King Bei will raise taxes as soon as he comes. If he continues to raise taxes, we won't be able to survive. It would be nice if King Bei had been having fun in his mansion and left us alone. I heard that in some places, after a vassal king was established, the lives of the people became more difficult. When Lu Chen entered the city, he looked at the people on both sides of the road. The clothes of the people in the north are obviously tattered than those in other counties. Compared with the people in other counties, they are almost like beggars. This is too poor. Yancheng is also the richest city in Beijing. Even the people in Yancheng are dressed in such rags, as you can imagine in other counties. His father was really cruel to let him come to a place like this. I don't know if there are many women in Beijing who can reach 90 points, which will affect my ability to take concubines. Lu Chen kept searching through the system for women who could reach 90 points, but after scanning for a long time, he didn't see any of them. Among the common people on both sides of the road, the one with the highest female score would not exceed 80. Lu Chen felt a little disappointed. When the motorcade arrived at the city gate, the officials from Bei County all raised their hands and said, "See you, Your Majesty." Lu Chen got off the carriage at this time. After seeing Lu Chen come out, the people immediately became excited. King Bei is so handsome. They say King Bei is only 16 years old, but he already looks as mature as a 20-year-old adult. Based on his appearance, King Bei doesn't seem to be the kind of person who is ignorant and unskilled. At this time, a middle-aged man wearing a blue shirt and long robe came to Lu Chen and said, "Your Majesty, Li Rui, see you." Hearing this, Lu Chen looked at Li Rui. Name, Li Rui. Identity, Temporary Sheriff of North County. Strength, Level 5. Loyalty, 30, in his opinion, you are an ignorant and useless prince. Seeing that Li Rui's loyalty was so low, Lu Chen immediately looked at the loyalty of the North County officials. It turned out that almost all officials had the same loyalty as Li Rui. This is not surprising. These people may have already inquired about their situation in the capital. Lu Chen directly asked, "Prefect Li, do you know how the construction of my prince's mansion is going?" Li Rui replied, "Your Majesty, don't worry, your mansion has been built and you can move in now." Lu Chen said with a smile, "Then lead the way." "Yes, Your Majesty." Then Li Rui and the others took the convoy to the North Prince's mansion. After entering the North Prince's mansion, Li Rui asked directly, "My lord, I don't know when you will have time so that I can report to you the situation in Beijing." Although Li Rui looked down on Lu Chen, a good-for-nothing prince, Lu Chen was the king of the north after all, and was now the most powerful person in the North County. The appointment and dismissal of officials in Beijing were all decided by King Bei. In this era, the vassal king had great power in the unfeft areas, not only administrative power and appointment and dismissal of officials, but also coinage and military power. Li Rui is just a temporary county guard appointed by the imperial court. After King Bei comes, he may be transferred, so Li Rui plans to brush his face in front of King Bei, look for presents, and let King Bei know that he is a capable official. Hearing Li Rui's words, Lu Chen smiled and patted Li Rui on the shoulder, and then said, "Leave professional matters to professional people, Prefect Li. Before I came here, you managed Beijing in an orderly manner. From now on, you can continue to govern Beijing on my behalf." As soon as these words came out, Li Rui half knelt down excitedly and said, "Thank you for your recognition, Your Majesty. I will definitely assist Your Majesty with all my strength, and I will do my best until I die." Hearing Li Rui's words, Lu Chen was speechless. He just wanted to find someone to work for. At this time, Lu Chen saw that Li Rui's loyalty had instantly increased to 50, and he said, "Okay, Governor Li, go and do your work. If there is nothing important in the future, don't come to me. Now I am going to get familiar with my palace." Having said this, Lu Chen walked towards his palace. Seeing Lu Chen's back, Li Rui felt a little complicated. It was obvious that King Bei planned to act as a hands-off treasurer and hand over all affairs of Beijing to him as the governor. This is of course a good thing for him, after all, who doesn't like power? But Li Rui also knew that taking over the power granted by King Bei would likely cause dissatisfaction from the court. There was a precedent for this in the Great Xia Dynasty. There was once a feudal prince who took over all the power of the vassal king. He was judged by the court as stealing the power of the vassal king and imprisoning the vassal king. In the end, the long history of that long history was to confiscate his family and exterminate his clan. After Lu Chen entered the palace, he determined the courtyard where he wanted to live. Then he took out the dragon and phoenix tree seeds from the system space. He bit his finger and dropped a drop of blood on the dragon and phoenix tree seeds. Then he buried the seeds in the soil and ordered his servants to take good care of them. After the dragon and phoenix tree grows up, the tea brewed from the leaves of the dragon and phoenix tree can make women rely more on him. This thing is very useful to Lu Chen. At this time, Mu Zixuan, who was wearing a long red gauze dress, passed by the yard. She saw that Lu Chen bit his finger and kept squeezing blood into the soil, so she hurriedly entered the yard. "My lord, what's wrong with you?" Mu Zixuan thought Lu Chen was bitten by a poisonous snake and was squeezing out the poison. Lu Chen glanced at the charming Mu Zixuan and said with a smile, "I'm fine, I'm cultivating the dragon and phoenix tree with blood." Mu Zixuan asked doubtfully, "Dragon and phoenix tree, what is that?" Lu Chen hugged Mu Zixuan's waist and replied, "You will know from now on." Having said this, Lu Chen's hands began to wander around Mu Zixuan's waist. "My dear concubine, how about we go try out the bed in the palace now?" Hearing this, a blush instantly appeared on Mu Zixuan's face. Then Lu Chen directly picked up Mu Zixuan and walked towards the room. "You and your wife and concubine develop a relationship once, and the qi refining technique experience value will be increased by 10. Congratulations on unlocking the qi chain technique and successfully introducing qi into the body. Congratulations on successfully impregnating Mu Zixuan and obtaining the soap making method. Rewards for pregnancy are encouraging rewards, so the rewards are less. If you successfully give birth to a child, you will get richer rewards." Chapter 12 You are all dead. After hearing the system announcement, Lu Chen instantly felt that his body became extremely refreshing, as if his skin could breathe. Lu Chen was extremely pleasantly surprised. He finally introduced the qi into his body. After introducing the qi into his body, he could be regarded as embarking on the path of cultivating immortality, right? Of course, another thing that surprised Lu Chen was that Mu Zixuan was finally pregnant with a child. They had been traveling for the past 2 months. Although they communicated and cultivated feelings on the way, there was no movement in the stomachs of Mu Zixuan and the other 3. Unexpectedly, just after she settled down, Mu Zixuan became pregnant. If you want to reproduce, you still need a stable environment. Lu Chen hugged Mu Zixuan and gently stroked Mu Zixuan's white and red skin while saying, "My beloved, I have a way to make money here. Are you interested?" Lu Chen is now the vassal king of Beijun. The royal family's source of income is basically taxes from the people. However, these taxes also need to be paid to lower-level officials, so there may not be much left for the royal family. If the prince wants to live a good life, he must have his own industry, and it just so happens that he obtained the method of making soap. Of course, the real money comes from things like salt and iron, but Lu Chen has no plans to touch these 2 things yet. This kind of interest involves too many things. If he takes action as soon as he comes to Beijun, I am afraid there will be more people to assassinate him. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Zixuan's eyes lit up, and she immediately asked, "My lord, what method are you talking about?" Mu Zixuan also wanted to prove that her worth was not just in bed. When she was in the capital, her father raised her as a princess, so she had strong abilities in all aspects. Lu Chen replied, "I have something that can clean clothes. I believe this kind of thing can be favored by the people." Mu Zixuan asked doubtfully, "Is the prince talking about bath beans?" "There is a kind of tree in this world. The fruit on the tree has the function of cleaning clothes. People call it bath beans. If it is bath beans, they are available everywhere, so it is difficult to create an industry." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Of course not. What I'm talking about has a stronger cleaning power than bath beans. You'll understand after I have someone make it in a few days." Mu Zixuan said, "Yes, I understand." At this time, the maid's voice came from outside the door, "Your Majesty, Mrs. Chu is looking for you." Hearing this, Mu Zixuan immediately said to Lu Chen, "My lord, you'd better go and have a look quickly. Aunt Chu should have something important to do with you." They had just arrived in Beijun, and there must be many things going on. Mu Zixuan did not dare to pester Lu Chen. If people knew that she had been pestering Lu Chen as soon as she came to Beijun, I don't know how many people would scold her. My beloved, you have a good rest, I'll go out and check the situation. Lu Chen reluctantly got up from the bed, got dressed, and left the room. When Lu Chen walked to the martial arts training ground of the palace, he saw Li Feng and Chu Yukin talking about something. After seeing Lu Chen coming over, Li Feng quickly said, "I've met the prince." Lu Chen looked at Chu Yukin and said, "Aunt Chu, do you have anything to do with me?" Chu Yukin said, "I'm not looking for you, General Li is looking for you." Lu Chen's eyes fell on Li Feng again. Li Feng quickly took out a letter from his arms and said to Lu Chen, "Your Majesty, this is what Duke Mu gave to his subordinates when we set out. He asked his subordinates to give this letter to you after they arrive in Beijun." Lu Chen immediately took the letter from Li Feng, opened it and read it carefully. At this time, Li Feng and the more than 100 soldiers behind him were staring at the letter in Lu Chen's hand. Li Feng, in particular, seemed very nervous. He didn't know what the letter said, and he was now afraid that King Bei would silence them. After all, they were about to return to the capital, and King Bei probably couldn't trust them. After Lu Chen read the letter, he glanced at Li Feng and others. Li Feng's loyalty has now increased to 87, and he is completely available. The loyalty of the soldiers in the escort is also not low, and basically none is lower than 60. Lu Chen said directly, "Duke Mu told me in this letter that you are all dead." As soon as these words came out, there was an uproar. Li Feng and others couldn't help but think, King Bei really didn't intend to silence him, right? No, it should be said that Duke Mu had no intention of letting them go back alive. After all, this letter was sent to King Bei by Duke Mu. Lu Chen saw that Li Feng and the others seemed very nervous, so he continued, "Gong Mu asked me to tell you that he has sent people to send your family members to Yanqing, and you have been removed from the Huban army. From now on, you will follow this king." This. Li Feng realized instantly that they had misunderstood what Lu Chen meant. They are already dead. It is said that they have been removed from the Daxia Tiger army. It seems that Duke Mu didn't want them to return to the capital from the beginning, and wanted them to follow the king of the north. Lu Chen showed a sly smile at this time, "Of course, if you don't want to follow me, I won't force you." Hearing this, Li Feng and the more than 100 soldiers knelt down without hesitation, "We will follow the prince to the death." What a joke, if they dare to say no now, they will never leave Yanqing. They are not fools. And there is nothing wrong with following King Bei. After learning that King Bei had weapons capable of killing 9th grade masters, they thought that King Bei had been hiding his clumsiness. When the northern king returns to the capital again and rules the world, they all have the merit of following the dragon. There is no need to think too much about how to choose. Lu Chen said, "Okay, you all get up." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Lu Chen took out a token from his arms, threw it to Li Feng and said, "General Li, take my token and take over the army in Beijun. I'll leave the training of the army to you." Li Feng immediately clasped his fists and said, "My subordinates must live up to the prince's expectations and reorganize the North County Army as soon as possible and train them into a fighting force." Lu Chen said, "There is no need to be too anxious. If the action is too big, the impact will be bad." Li Feng reacted instantly and said immediately, "I understand, I must be careful." Li Feng thought that King Bei must continue to hide his clumsiness to avoid being discovered by others. "Okay, you guys go do your own thing." Having said this, Lu Chen turned around and prepared to leave. At this time, Chu Yukin looked at Lu Chen's back and felt vaguely that something was wrong. She didn't know why, but she always felt like there was a ball of gas on Lu Chen's body. In order to verify her conjecture, Chu Yukin kicked her toes hard and was behind Lu Chen in an instant. After Lu Chen felt the spiritual energy fluctuation behind him, he suddenly turned around and saw Chu Yukin, who met Chu Yukin's eyes. The distance between Chu Yukin and him was less than 30 centimeters, and a faint fragrance floated into Lu Chen's nostrils, making Lu Chen's body a little restless. "Aunt Chu, what are you?" Chu Yukin smiled and then said, "Chener, I didn't expect you to become a martial artist behind your aunt's back. Why have I never seen you practice martial arts in the past? What kind of martial arts do you practice?" "Forward." Lu Chen saw that he was exposed, so he smiled and said, "Aunt Chu, this is a man's little secret." Chu Yukin said coquettishly, "Where did you get so many secrets?" Lu Chen chuckled, "It's normal for a deep man to have many secrets in his heart." Chu Yukin stared at Lu Chen speechlessly, and then said, "If you don't say so, forget it. I'll go set up defenses." As soon as the words fell, Chu Yukin walked towards the door of the palace. Looking at Chu Yukin's graceful and dignified figure, Lu Chen felt the fire in his heart burning brighter and stronger. He quickly turned around and ran to find his 2 concubines to practice. "Please give me recommendation votes." Recommendation votes are very important for new books. Chapter 13, Recovering the Military Power of Beijun. Yanchinj. Sheriff's Mansion. After seeing Li Rui's return, officials from Beijun swarmed over. One of the officials asked, "Prefect Li, has the prince said what he will do next?" Now the officials in Beijun are very concerned about what kind of big moves the king of Bei will make after coming to Beland, and whether it will affect their jobs and interests. Li Rui showed a smile, raised his hand to stroke his beard, and then replied calmly, "The prince told me not to go to him if there is nothing important. Everything in Beijun will continue as usual." Upon hearing this, the officials in Bei County instantly became extremely excited. If so, neither the power in their hands nor their interests will be compromised. Although they didn't say anything at this time, their thoughts were basically, "Fortunately, the imperial court sent a useless prince to Beijun." However, at this moment, a soldier from the sheriff's mansion ran in a panic. He came to Li Rui and whispered something. After listening to the soldier's words, Li Rui frowned and his face instantly darkened. Seeing Li Rui's face looking so ugly, an official asked quickly, "Sir, what happened?" As soon as the official finished speaking, Li Feng walked into the county governor's house. Seeing Li Rui and all the officials there, Li Feng smiled and said, "Master Li, your mansion is really busy today." Li Rui came back to his senses, walked up quickly and said, "Where is it? I wonder what General Li has to convey when he comes to my residence." Li Feng directly took out the token of King Bei, and then said, "Your Majesty has an order. From today on, I will take over all military affairs of Bei County." Upon hearing this, the officials in the courtyard panicked instantly. The main reason why they dared to be unscrupulous and did not take the King of North to heart at all was because the army of Beijun was in the hands of the prefect. As soon as the northern king arrived in Beijun, he was about to take over the military affairs of Beijun. What was he going to do? The army is relatively sensitive, and the feudal king will inevitably do something when he controls the army. Is it possible that King Bei is planning to attack them? Li Rui said at this time, "General Li, the prince has just arrived in Beijun. He is not familiar with Beijun yet. I wonder why he asked you to take over the military affairs." Li Rui didn't think that King Bei was going to take action against the forces in Beijun, at least not in the short term. After all, he had just arrived in Beijun and had not yet established a foothold in Beijun. Besides, if the northern king wants to maintain his rule in Beijun, he still needs officials like them and the major forces in the northern county. No matter how ignorant the northern king is, he should not do such a self-destructive thing. Li Feng saw the worries in the hearts of Li Rui and others, so he said directly, "Master Li, I believe you have heard the news that the prince was assassinated by Suiyu Tower on the road to the feudal lord, right?" Li Rui said, "This is natural." Li Feng continued, "In this case, you should understand why the prince wants to control the military. The prince does not want his personal safety to be in the hands of others. Hearing what Li Feng said, Li Rui and others reacted instantly. Yes, King Bei was assassinated on the way here. He was relatively young and must have been frightened. Perhaps it was because he was afraid of death and feared that Bei Jun's army would harm him, so he took control of the military. Li Feng continued, Master Li, don't you want to hand over military power? The prince has entrusted all affairs of Bei Jun to you. If the military power still belongs to you, then who are you or the prince? Hearing Li Feng's words, Li Rui suddenly broke into a cold sweat on his forehead. Indeed, if all the power in Bei Jun is in his hands and no one can restrict him, it won't be long before the court will send people to trouble him. Li Rui thought for a moment and figured out that there weren't many soldiers in Bei Jun anyway, so he might as well just hand it over to avoid causing trouble for himself. Thinking of this, Li Rui immediately took out the tiger talisman from his arms and said, General Li, this is the tiger talisman that governs all the soldiers and horses in Bei Jun. Then Li Rui said to an armored soldier next to him, Captain Wang, take General Li to the barracks to have a look. Yes, sir. Li Feng then followed the soldier to the barracks in Yanchanj. After Li Feng left, the officials behind Li Rui gathered around him. Sir, why did you give him the tiger talisman? Yes, sir, what will happen if the prince has military power and causes chaos? Sir, what should we do now? Hearing the officials' discussion, Li Rui said, Don't worry, the military power should be in the hands of the prince. It is normal for the prince to take back the military power. And you also heard what Li Feng said just now. The prince has entrusted all the affairs of Bei Jun to me. If I still control the military power, I am afraid that the prince will be able to tolerate me, and the court will not be able to tolerate me. Hearing what Li Rui said, some officials with quick thinking instantly understood what Li Rui meant. After all, there was a case in the Xia Dynasty where a certain royal palace chief monopolized power and imprisoned the vassal king. But they are still a little worried. Once the northern king has military power, it is equivalent to having weapons in his hands. It will be easy to deal with them, and they will not dare to mess around like before. Li Rui continued, Okay, you each return to your respective jurisdictions. If King Bei has any orders, I will inform you as soon as possible. After hearing Li Rui's words, the officials had no choice but to leave the county governor's mansion one after another. A few days later, North Palace. Lu Chen was in the yard, looking at the soap made by his servants according to the soap-making diagram. He picked up a piece and applied it on a piece of dirty clothes to try it. Soon, the stains on the dirty clothes will become clean after being washed. Seeing this scene, everyone in the courtyard made an incredible cry. Chu Yukin asked curiously, Chener, where did you find the making method? Is this soap so easy to use? Lu Chen washed his hands and replied with a smile, Aunt Chu, if I say I thought of it myself, would you believe it? Chu Yukin raised her beautiful eyes and said in a somewhat sinister tone, Chener has really grown up. There are more and more secrets. She hides everything from her aunt. Music Xuan saw that the atmosphere seemed a little bad, so she quickly smoothed things over and said, Aunt Chu, this is indeed the method that the prince came up with. In fact, Chu Yukin's tone was just a little yin and yang. She was not angry at all. Chu Yukin had no intention of exploring the secrets in Lu Chen's heart. But having said that, Chu Yukin felt a little sour inside when she thought about how Lu Chen told her everything before, but hid everything from her after they got married. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao changed the subject and said, My lord, how do you plan to sell this soap? Lu Chen made it clear before making the soap that he wanted to sell it, so Zhou Xiaoxiao was curious about how the soap prince planned to price such a soap with such a strong cleaning effect. Lu Chen thought for a moment, and then said, it costs 3 to 10 cents a piece. Zhou Yuyu beside Zhou Xiaoxiao said in surprise, so cheap. Lu Chen said, small profits but quick turnover. It is originally used to replace bath beans. It cannot be too expensive. If it is too expensive, no one will buy it. Having said this, Lu Chen's eyes fell on Mu Zixuan. My beloved, the soap industry will be left to you. Mu Zixuan said with excitement on her face, don't worry, Your Majesty, I will take good care of the soap industry and fill the palace's internal treasury as soon as possible. As soon as Mu Zixuan finished speaking, her expression suddenly turned pale and she started retching. Seeing this scene, Zhou Yuyu and Zhou Xiaoxiao hurriedly came to her side to support her. Sister, what's wrong with you? Quick, call the doctor. Chapter 14 Hunters often appear as prey. Seeing Mu Zixuan retching, Lu Chen basically guessed what was going on. After all, he had received a reminder from the system a few days ago that the soap-making method was also obtained because Mu Zixuan was pregnant. However, even if she knew she was pregnant, she still needed to see a doctor. His rejuvenation hand hadn't started practicing yet, so he couldn't help Mu Zixuan check her body. He could only ask the doctor to check the situation. Mu Zixuan was then transferred back to the room. Mu Zixuan was lying on the bed, looking at Lu Chen beside the bed and said, My lord, I'm fine. Lu Chen stroked Mu Zixuan's cheek, smiled and said, It's better to lie down and wait until the doctor comes to see her. Soon, the doctor came to the room. After briefly checking his pulse, the doctor immediately stood up and bowed and said, Congratulations, Your Majesty, the princess is here. Hearing this, everyone in the room became excited. Zhou Xiaoxiao said next to Mu Zixuan, Sister, it's great, you are pregnant. Our prince has a daughter. Lu Chen also said happily, Xiao, take 2 taels of silver and give it to the doctor. Upon hearing this, the doctor immediately said, Thank you, Your Majesty, for the reward. These days, 2 taels of silver is not a small amount. Doctors don't know how many patients they have to see before they can earn 2 taels of silver. After the doctor left, Lu Chen stroked Mu Zixuan's belly and said with a smile, My dear concubine, it seems that all our hard work for so many days was worth it. Mu Zixuan's face turned red. There were so many people watching here, yet Lu Chen actually said it so directly. Mu Zixuan said at this time, Your Majesty, I will not be able to serve you for a while. Lu Chen said, It doesn't matter, just take good care of the baby. Mu Zixuan asked at this time, My lord, when do you plan to let Xiao Xiao and Yu Yu in? Although Zhou Xiao Xiao and Zhou Yu Yu are already Lu Chen's women, they haven't held a banquet yet. After all, the prince is taking a concubine, so the banquet must still be held. Lu Chen thought for a while and then said, It will be done in 2 days. Mu Zixuan asked with a smile on her face, Can you leave this matter to me? Lu Chen said, If my concubine is willing, then this matter will be troublesome to my concubine. Seeing the affectionate look between Lu Chen and Mu Zixuan, Chu Yukin always felt a little uncomfortable, then she turned around and left the room quietly. She used to accompany Lu Chen, but now that Lu Chen has a princess, it seems that she no longer needs her as an aunt, which makes her feel very disappointed. A few days later, news spread from Buwang Mansion that Buwang wanted to take a concubine. After hearing the news, various forces in Bei County began to prepare gifts. Bei Hualu. A woman in a red robe was sitting at the window, looking at the people coming and going in the distance. The woman's red robe was loose, revealing her white collarbone and white patches. If anyone saw her, she would easily be confused. There is nothing to fault about her beautiful face. Her face has a faint blush and is pretty and charming. The corners of the woman's mouth were slightly curved, her peach blossom eyes seemed to have spring in them, and she looked extremely charming. Her hair was tied high into a bun with a phoenix hairpin, and her long black silk hair was spread over her shoulders. Her exquisite curves made her even more charming. At this moment, a woman with a mask entered the room. She said from behind the curtain, Holy Lady, the pavilion master wants you to complete the task as soon as possible and leave Beijun. Hearing this, the woman couldn't help but sneer. Her voice was very clear, like the call of a bird in the forest. King Bei has been hiding in the mansion, and we can't confirm whether the Grand Master around him has left. How can it be so easy to complete the task? The woman outside the curtain said, the pavilion master said this is His Highness's wish, and he has nothing to do. If you need help, you can ask it. Wang Qingkai said calmly, forget it, you write back and tell him that I will find an opportunity to get close to King Bei as soon as possible and ask him not to press. Wang Qingkai was a little upset at this time. She came to Yancheng 2 months ago. In order to get close to King Bei, she specially made herself an Waran. As a result, King Bei never came to Beihua Tower once after arriving in Yancheng. It is said that King Bei is uneducated and lustful. He likes to secretly go to Golan to listen to music. As a result, King Bei acted like a different person when he arrived in Beijun. He stayed at the mansion and never went there. Wang Qingkai also tried to send people to the palace to gather information, but there were many guards in the palace, and Chu Yukan was personally in charge, so it was difficult for their people to sneak in. They don't know what the situation is in the palace now. At this time, a blue bird flew in front of Wang Qingkai from the window. Wang Qingkai immediately grabbed the bird and took off the note from its leg. After reading the content on the note, Wang Qingkai smiled. It seemed that their information was correct, and King Bei was indeed lustful. Only a few days after arriving in Beijun, he started taking concubines. This was a good thing for her. She had to find a way to go to the palace. If she could attract the attention of King Bei, that would be great. The beauty trap is the best for her, especially when carrying out assassinations. A few days later, the palace of the Northern King. Today is the day when Lu Chen takes concubines. The palace is decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations, and there is an endless stream of people coming to give gifts. Music Xuan took care of all the concubinage matters this time. Basically, all the major forces in Beijun received invitations from the palace. Music Xuan also planned to use this opportunity to promote the soap, so she invited the major forces in Beijun. While giving gifts, Lu Chen sat in the martial arts arena, listening to the people from the palace reporting on the gifts given by the major forces, while scanning the women attending the wedding banquet with his eyes. In the Great Xia Dynasty, women who had not left the palace generally did not go out to attend other people's wedding banquets. However, today, in order to attract the prince's attention to the women of their family and marry him, many people brought girls from their families who had not left the palace. But after Lu Chen glanced around, he didn't find anything with a score over 90. Lu Chen sighed, Yancheng is indeed too small and too poor. There are so few women with ratings over 90. Just when Lu Chen was about to give up, a woman wearing a purple dress came into Lu Chen's field of vision. Name, Wang Qingkai. Identity, 9th grade warrior, the adopted daughter of the Wang family in Jiangnan, the saint of Yunyu Pavilion, and the temporary owner of Beihua Tower. In order to assassinate King Bei, she specially came to attend King Bei's wedding banquet, trying to attract King Bei's attention, and then used a beauty trap to seduce Bei. King. Rating, 95. Favorability, 0. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment when he saw the prompt in front of him. Unexpectedly, a 9th grade assassin sneaked in. Oh, no, others did not sneak in, but came in openly. Lu Chen suddenly felt a little confused when he saw Wang Qingkai's enchanting figure, as well as the huge slippery shoulders and white patches. It's really unlucky that a stunning beauty with a 95 rating turns out to be an assassin. It is not easy to find a woman with a score of 95. He must find a way to get this enchanting rose and let her give him a child. Thinking of this, Lu Chen fell into deep thought. It seems that the dragon and phoenix tree has grown, and he will test the effect of making tea from the leaves of the dragon and phoenix tree later. If Longfeng tea is effective, then his and Wang Qingkai's identities will change. Thinking of this, the corners of Lu Chen's mouth raised slightly. Sometimes the hunter appears in the form of his prey. Chapter 15 Fooling Chu Yukan. At this time, Wang Qingkai also noticed Lu Chen. After all, she came here for Lu Chen. Seeing that King Bei actually smiled at her, Wang Qingkai was overjoyed. It seemed that her plan had been half successful. She had indeed attracted King Bei's attention. Then just wait quietly. She believed that King Bei would find her soon, and Wang Qingkai was still very confident in her beauty. Then Wang Qingkai also smiled slightly at Lu Chen. After the wedding banquet, Lu Chen left directly, while Musician chatted with the women who came to the wedding banquet. Lu Chen had already communicated with Zhou Xiaoxiao and the others about their feelings, so Lu Chen was not at all anxious about the wedding. At this time, he came to the main courtyard, which was the courtyard where he planted dragon and phoenix trees. The dragon and phoenix tree had not been planted for half a month, but it had already grown to the height of Lu Chen's waist. However, the dragon and phoenix trees looked no different from ordinary trees. Lu Chen picked a few leaves from the dragon and phoenix tree and planned to make tea for Zhou Xiaoxiao and the two sisters to drink during the bridal chamber. At this time, Chu Yukan appeared in the yard. Seeing that Lu Chen did not go to receive the guests, nor did he go to find Zhou Xiaoxiao and the others, but came to the yard to look at the trees, Chu Yukan asked curiously, "Chener, what are you doing? Why didn't you go to Zhou Xiaoxiao? Two sisters at home?" Hearing Chu Yukan's voice, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, then he turned to look at Chu Yukan, and an idea suddenly came to his mind. At this time, Lu Chen asked the system in his mind. "System, after drinking dragon phoenix tea, will women become dependent on me and unable to live without me? I such that. And after women drink dragon phoenix tea, they will not be able to harm you. When you touch their bodies, they will lose their strength. However, if the woman who drank dragon phoenix tea has a crush on you, then dragon phoenix tea can improve their skills to a certain extent." Lu Chen was a little surprised when he heard the system's words. He thought that Long Feng tea would at most make women dependent on him, but he didn't expect that it would also have the effect of increasing his skill. Chu Yukan has such a high opinion of herself, so if she drinks dragon phoenix tea, it will definitely increase her skill. Thinking of this, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry, it's broad daylight. What should I do to find them? Could it be that Aunt Chu wants me to announce that in broad daylight?" Hearing this, Chu Yukan rolled her eyes at Lu Chen and said, "What are you talking about? I just asked you to talk to the two sisters. After all, you are already married." At this time, Chu Yukan looked at the leaves of the dragon and phoenix tree in Lu Chen's hand and asked curiously, "What are you doing with the leaves?" Lu Chen did not answer Chu Yukan's question directly, but looked around and said cautiously, "Aunt Chu, come with me, I have a secret to tell you." Hearing this, Chu Yukan's eyes lit up and she instantly became interested. Recently, she discovered that Lu Chen had a lot of secrets. Every time she asked Lu Chen was unwilling to tell her because he had grown up. She once thought that Lu Chen had disowned her. "Auntie." Since Lu Chen was willing to tell her secrets today, she would definitely want to hear it. She wanted to know what kind of secrets Lu Chen would tell her. At this time, Lu Chen walked towards his room, and Chu Yukan quickly followed. After Lu Chen entered his room, he put a few leaves in his hand into the teapot on the table. Seeing this scene, Chu Yukan became even more curious, wondering what Lu Chen was doing. After a while, Lu Chen poured the brewed dragon and phoenix tea into 2 purple clay cups. "Aunt Chu, try the taste of this tea." Hearing this, Chu Yukan was stunned for a moment, and then she asked speechlessly, "Chener, is this the secret you said?" Lu Chen said mysteriously, "Aunt Chu, if you drink it first, you will understand the secret I am talking about." Having said this, Lu Chen picked up a purple clay cup on the table and drank the dragon and phoenix tea in one gulp. Seeing that Lu Chen had already drank, Chu Yukan also doubtfully picked up the purple sand cup in front of her, and then took a sip of the dragon and phoenix tea in the cup. As soon as she took a sip, Chu Yukin felt a coolness rush into her heart. The next moment, Chu Yukin found that the skill in her body was slowly increasing. Her realm has been stuck at the 9th level for many years. She thought it would be difficult to improve her realm. Unexpectedly, just after taking a sip of tea, the realm in her body began to loosen. Chu Yukin immediately drank the dragon and phoenix tea in the cup, and then her beautiful eyes stared at Lu Chen closely. "Chener, if I'm not mistaken, the leaves in your hand just now are from the tree in the middle of the yard." Var. Chu Yukin had long discovered that Lu Chen seemed to be particularly interested in the tree in the middle of the yard. Chu Yukin had always been curious about why Lu Chen watered the tree himself every day after coming to Beijing. It turns out that the leaves of that tree can actually increase people's power. This is incredible. Lu Chen still did not answer Chu Yukin's question, but asked, "Aunt Chu, how do you feel now?" Chu Yukin closed her eyes slightly, and the next moment a stream of air spread out from Chu Yukin's body. Chu Yukin opened her eyes and couldn't believe it. She actually broke through to become a half-step master. Although she still has a long way to go before becoming a Grand Master, this at least gives her hope. At this time, Lu Chen explained, "Aunt Chu, the tree in the yard is called the Dragon and Phoenix tree. Drinking tea made from the leaves of that tree can help warriors improve their skills." Lu Chen only said part of the content. As for the other uses of Dragon Phoenix tea, Lu Chen had no plans to tell Chu Yukin yet. Chu Yukin's temperament was relatively soft, and Lu Chen had no intention of being strong from the beginning. Chu Yukin was immediately surprised when she heard Lu Chen's words. Although she had already experienced the benefits of Dragon Phoenix tea, she felt even more incredible after hearing Lu Chen's explanation in person. Even if Lu Chen could take out a weapon that could instantly kill a 9th level warrior, now he found a plant that could increase his power from nowhere. If someone knew about this kind of thing, I'm afraid the entire martial arts world would be in chaos. I don't know how many master-level experts will come to the palace to snatch that tree. Not only the Grand Master, but maybe even the Grand Master would be interested in this tree. Chu Yukin wasn't going to ask Lu Chen how he got here, and Lu Chen probably wouldn't be able to tell if she asked him anyway. Chu Yukin sighed at this time and asked worriedly, "Chener, does anyone else know the function of this tree?" Lu Chen shook his head and said, "I only told Aunt Chu about this matter, no one else knows about it." Chu Yukin reminded, "Don't tell others the purpose of this tree, otherwise the Buwang mansion will be in disaster, and I won't be able to save the Buwang mansion." Lu Chen said, "Don't worry, Aunt Chu, I know the pros and cons of this." Chu Yukin said, "Okay, you go to Xiao Xiao and Yu Yu's place first." Lu Chen said and said, "Then I'll go over first." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chen turned around and left. For some reason, Chu Yukin suddenly felt a little uneasy when she saw Lu Chen's tall figure leaving. Chapter 16 The slave family thanks the prince for the reward. After Lu Chen left the main courtyard, he was about to go to the courtyard of the two sisters of the Zhou family. At this time, he saw Mu Zixuan taking Wang Qingkai to the backyard of the palace. Lu Chen was a little curious, why did Mu Zixuan bring this woman here? He frowned, maybe Wang Qingkai wanted to get close to him, so he found some excuse to deceive Mu Zixuan. This is not okay. If this woman is here for him, there will be no problem at all. But if Wang Qingkai hurt Mu Zixuan in the process, it would be troublesome. Now Mu Zixuan is pregnant again. Thinking of this, Lu Chen quickly followed. When Lu Chen entered the backyard, the maid Xiao was about to make tea. Lu Chen immediately stopped her and said, "Xiao, use this leaf to make tea later." Having said this, Lu Chen handed the leaf in his hand to Xiao. Xiao didn't think much about it. After all, she was just a maid. "Yes, Your Majesty." After handing the dragon and phoenix tree leaves to Xiao, Lu Chen immediately entered the backyard. After seeing Lu Chen, Wang Qingkai felt very happy and finally found a chance to get close to King Bei. Of course, she had no intention of attacking Bei Wang now. The main reason why she approached Bei Wang this time was to show off her face in front of Bei Wang, so that he could remember her and deepen his impression of her. She was not sure if the rumored Grandmaster had left Bei Wang. If he took action at this time, it was very likely that she would not be able to leave Bei Wang's mansion. At this time, Wang Qingkai immediately stood up from the stone bench, saluted and said, "The daughter of the people comes to see the prince." Mu Zixuan saw Lu Chen running here and asked curiously, "My lord, why didn't you go to your sister's place?" Although Lu Chen had already eaten up Xiao Xiao and Yu Yu, today was the wedding banquet day after all, and he still had to go through the process, but Lu Chen came here. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry, we'll talk about it later in the evening." Having said this, Lu Chen looked at Wang Qingkai in front of him. Wang Qingkai's whole body exuded a charming fragrance. He was really a foxy girl. Lu Chen then asked, "Who are you?" Wang Qingkai immediately introduced himself, "Back to your lord, I am the Warren of Beiwa House." Mu Zixuan added at this time, "Your Majesty, after seeing the effect of soap, Miss Wang plans to order a batch of soap from us." Lu Chen said, "Oh, so that's it. Then you can continue talking and don't worry about me." Having said this, Lu Chen walked to the edge of the pavilion and sat down. At this time, Xiao entered the courtyard carrying the brewed dragon and phoenix tea. Xiao poured each of them a cup of dragon and phoenix tea. At this time, Wang Qingkai continued to say to Mu Zixuan, "Princess, our Beihualo has ordered a large quantity of soap. I wonder how long it will take for the palace to make it." Wang Qingkai's attention was not on Mu Zixuan at all, but she didn't dare to go too far at this time, so she had to pretend to talk. Mu Zixuan asked, "How many do you need?" Wang Qingkai replied, 1,000 yuan. Mu Zixuan was a little surprised. This was the first time the palace had received such a large order. "So much?" Wang Qingkai smiled and then explained, "Our girls in Beihualo have a lot of clothes, and they need to be washed every day. In order to clean these clothes, Beihualo needs to go outside the city to buy a lot of bath beans every day." Mu Zixuan thought about it and felt that it made sense. After all, this is a land of fireworks, and the clothes worn by those prostitutes must be clean, so it is normal to consume soap. So, can Beihualo become a big customer of Wangfu in the future? Just when Mu Zixuan was happy about the first big order from the palace, she noticed that Lu Chen's eyes were scanning Wang Qingkai's body not far from the pavilion. Mu Zixuan instantly understood why Lu Chen appeared here. It turned out that he was here for Wang Qingkai. However, Mu Zixuan didn't think anything of it. It was well known that Lu Chen liked beauty. Wang Qingkai is the Warren of Beiwa House. He looks so enchanting, so it's normal for Lu Chen to be tempted. At this time, Wang Qingkai picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip of tea. After drinking this, Wang Qingkai suddenly felt a refreshing feeling rush into his heart, and Wang Qingkai was stunned for a moment. Then he asked, "Princess, where does the tea in your palace come from?" Mu Zixuan was a little confused when she heard this sudden question. She never expected that Wang Qingkai would suddenly change the topic to tea. Then Mu Zixuan curiously picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. Mu Zixuan immediately understood why Wang Qingkai suddenly asked about tea. Mu Zixuan turned to look at the maid aside, "Xiao, what kind of tea are you making? Why have I never drank this kind of tea?" Before Xiao could answer, Lu Chen, who was not far away, took the initiative and said, "My dear concubine, do you still remember the tree planted in my main courtyard?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Zixuan instantly thought of the tree that Lu Chen had carefully taken care of recently. She had always been curious about why Lu Chen was so interested in that tree. It turned out that it was a special tea tree. Mu Zixuan asked at this time, "Your Majesty, is the tea in this teapot made from leaves picked from that tree?" Lu Chen nodded and said, yes. Having said this, Lu Chen's eyes fell in front of Wang Qingkai and asked with a smile, Miss Wang, how do you like this tea? Wang Qingkai replied, it is fragrant, sweet and refreshing. My family has never drunk such magical tea. Lu Chen said, since Miss Wang likes it, I will ask my servants to pick some fresh tea leaves and bring them back to you. Wang Qingkai thought to herself that it seemed that King Bei planned to use this tea to please her. According to this process, it would not be long before King Bei became her guest, and her mission was almost completed. Thinking of this, Wang Qingkai showed a charming smile and said, I would like to thank you, Your Majesty, for the reward. Lu Chen said to Xiao at this time, Xiao, go to the tree that I water often and pick 2 tails of fresh tea leaves for Miss Wang to take back. Yes, Your Majesty. Then Xiao left the backyard and went to the main courtyard to pick tea leaves. Afterwards, Wang Qingkai and Mu Zixuan continued to discuss soap matters. After confirming the delivery date, Wang Qingkai left the palace with the leaves of the dragon and phoenix tree that Xiao had just picked. Mu Zixuan saw Lu Chen's eyes staring at Wang Qingkai's back, so she walked to sit next to Lu Chen and said, My lord, if you like Miss Wang, I can have someone go to Beiwa house to buy her. Come down and let her serve the prince, Miss Wang should still be innocent. Mu Zixuan is relatively open-minded when it comes to women, and she has no intention of being jealous. Hearing this, Lu Chen came back to his senses. He put his big hands around Mu Zixuan's waist, then picked her up with force and let her sit on his lap. Then Lu Chen whispered in Mu Zixuan's ear, My dear concubine, do you really think she is just an ordinary warren? Lu Chen planned to tell her Wang Qingkai's true identity directly. After all, Wang Qingkai, a woman, had ulterior motives for him. If she was allowed to have excessive contact with Mu Zixuan, it might be detrimental to Mu Zixuan. It would be better to tell Mu Zixuan her true identity and let Mu Zixuan guard against her. Chapter 17 Grandmaster is no big deal. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Zixuan was slightly stunned. In her eyes, Wang Qingkai was indeed just an ordinary courtesan. Lu Chen continued, she is a 9th grade warrior, a saint from Yanyu Pavilion. Mu Zixuan's brain was stunned. She didn't know what kind of force Yanyu Pavilion was. But a 9th grade warrior actually went to a place like Beiwa Tower to work as an warren. This was obviously a conspiracy. Mu Zixuan now understood why Wang Qingkai suddenly wanted to approach her. It seems that ordering soap is fake, but taking the opportunity to get close to the prince is real. Mu Zixuan said quickly, Your Majesty, I realized that I was wrong. I didn't know her true identity and led the wolf into the house. I am willing to accept the punishment. Lu Chen raised his hand, scratched Mu Zixuan's nose, and said with a smile, Those who don't know are not guilty, I don't blame you. Mu Zixuan asked, What does the prince plan to do with her and Bei Hualu next? Lu Chen did not answer directly, but looked at the teapot on the stone table and said, My dear concubine, did you have any special feelings after drinking the dragon and phoenix tea just now? Mu Zixuan thought for a moment, special feeling? After drinking dragon phoenix tea, I feel very refreshed. Lu Chen continued to ask, what about other than that? For example, is there any restlessness in your body? Speaking of this, Lu Chen put his hand on Mu Zixuan's belly and rubbed it. Mu Zixuan's face instantly turned red. She immediately understood what Lu Chen wanted to ask. I just suddenly thought of the scene when I had a wedding with the prince, and those scenes have been lingering in my mind. Lu Chen said, This is the function of Longfeng tea. The dragon and phoenix tea cultivated with my blood can make women who drink the dragon and phoenix tea fall in love with me. Now Mu Zixuan's favorable impression of him has reached 95, so there is no need to hide the matter of Longfeng tea from her. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Zixuan reacted immediately. She said why she suddenly wanted to be intimate with Lu Chen just now. It turned out to be the influence of Longfeng tea. At this time, Music Xuan remembered that when Wang Qingkai was leaving just now, Lu Chen gave Wang Qingkai 2 tails of dragon and phoenix tea. Music Xuan then asked, the prince sent dragon and phoenix tea to Wang Qingkai, is he planning to conquer her? Lu Chen replied, Yanya Pavilion gave me a 9th grade beauty. How can I not accept it? Music Xuan said, I congratulate you, Your Majesty, for conquering a 9th grade master. Lu Chen smiled slightly and said nothing more. After hugging Music Xuan for a while in the pavilion, Lu Chen felt a little restless, so he went to the north courtyard. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao and Zhou Yuya were waiting quietly in the room. Although they had been Lu Chen's women for a long time, they still looked forward to Lu Chen's visit to them. Unlike marrying a wife, there are not so many procedures for taking a concubine. After the banquet is over, you can get down to business. Lu Chen entered the room and found the 2 sisters sitting on the bed. He took out long feng tea and brewed a pot of tea and said to the 2 of them, Xiao Xiao, Yu, come here and try the tea I brewed first. Zhou Xiaoxiao and the others didn't understand why Lu Chen wanted them to drink tea at this time, but Lu Chen was the prince, and they just had to be obedient. The 2 sisters came to the table, picked up the teacups on the table, and took a sip of dragon and phoenix tea. After drinking the dragon and phoenix tea, Zhou Xiaoxiao asked in surprise, My lord, what kind of tea is this? It's so sweet. Lu Chen hugged Zhou Xiaoxiao's waist and replied with a smile, this is dragon and phoenix tea. It will help us focus more later. The 2 sisters' faces instantly turned red. However, Lu Chen didn't do anything at this time. He suddenly remembered that he still had a pill that he had not taken. There is a dragon tiger pill in his novice gift bag, and its function is very simple. It mainly improves his combat effectiveness. He didn't take it because he couldn't use it before. He was already a first-level warrior, and his physical strength was several times better than that of ordinary people. He basically had no problem dealing with Music Xuan and 3 other weak women. However, I left this elixir alone, so I might as well just use it. The effect is permanent anyway. Thinking of this, Lu Chen took out the dragon tiger pill from the system space and threw it directly into his mouth. The taste of dragon tiger pill is nothing special, just like eating jelly beans. After swallowing the dragon tiger pill, Lu Chen didn't feel anything. Lu Chen was a little confused. Could this pill have expired? After all, this is a gift package for newbies, something from 2 months ago. Just when Lu Chen was thinking this, the fragrance of Zhou Xiaoxiao's 2 sisters wafted into Lu Chen's nose. The next moment, Lu Chen suddenly felt his energy and blood rising, and his body was extremely hot. Lu Chen frowned, maybe he had underestimated this thing. Next, Lu Chen had to ask 2 sisters to help solve his negative physical condition. Ding! Once the host and his wife develop a relationship, the qi refining technique experience value will be increased by 10, the host will reach the 1st level, and the host will reach the 4th level. Ding! If the host develops a relationship with his wife once, the experience value of the rejuvenation hand will be increased by 10. Congratulations to the host for unlocking the rejuvenation hand technique. Congratulations to the host for getting Zhou Xiaoxiao pregnant and getting the recipe for making perfume. The pregnancy reward is an encouragement reward. Please try your best to protect the child from being born safely. The reward for obtaining an heir will be even richer. A series of system prompts made Lu Chen, who had already calmed down, become very excited. At this time, he felt that his body became lighter and his physical strength became more abundant. If the 2 sisters Zhou Xiaoxiao had not fallen asleep, he would still want to continue to cultivate feelings with them. Lu Chen opened his system panel at this time and checked his current situation. Host, Lu Chen. Realm, 4th level. Skills, Qi Refining Technique Level 1, Rejuvenation Hand just unlocked. Supernatural powers, none. Weapons, Desert Eagle, Barret, Grenade. Heirs, none. Seeing the word first level behind the qi refining technique of the Kung Fu, Lu Chen couldn't help but think that just by breaking through to the first level of the qi refining technique, his realm actually jumped directly from the first level to the fourth level. If the qi refining technique breaks through to the second level, wouldn't he become a master? What if the qi refining technique breaks through to the 10th level? Will he directly become an immortal? Just when Lu Chen was imagining the scene of becoming an immortal in the future, the system prompt sounded. Host, please keep your feet on the ground and don't have excessive fantasies. This world will not allow the birth of immortals. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment when he heard the system beep. But he didn't care too much. It didn't matter even if he couldn't become an immortal, as long as he could still use the qi refining technique. Relying on qi refining techniques to improve your realm is much faster than relying on practicing Kung Fu. Improving the qi refining technique by one level can bring him to the fourth level. When he reaches the second level of the qi refining technique, even if he has not reached the level of Grand Master, he is not far away from it. But having said that, even if you become a Grand Master, you will only be better than most warriors in this world. When he thought that he could instantly kill a 9th level warrior with the Desert Eagle, Lu Chen suddenly felt that becoming a Grand Master was no big deal. After all beings are equal before guns and guns. His own strength only enhanced his ability to protect himself, nothing more. Chapter 18 Lu Chen's attitude towards concubines. Great Xia Dynasty. Beijing, a certain restaurant. At this time, a woman wearing a veil was kneeling behind Lu Shiyun. Lu Shiyun was looking at the attic in the distance with his hands behind his back. After a long while, Lu Shiyun finally said, "After so long, you, Yunyu Pavilion, have not made any move. I really don't understand. What is the use of my support for you?" Hearing this, the woman behind Lu Shiyun quickly said, "Your Highness, the saint has contacted the North King. Once the saint confirms that the mysterious master has left the Bei Prince's mansion, she will take action immediately. I believe that the saint will soon you can complete the mission." Lu Shiyun said coldly, "Soon? What I need is a definite time." After hearing this, the woman fell silent and did not continue to speak. Just then, a man entered the room. "Your Highness, the Blood Moon building has agreed, but they ask for a price 5 times higher than last time, but they will send the deputy building owner there." Hearing this, the anger in Lu Shiyun's heart calmed down a little. Originally, he had no intention of continuing to look for Suiyu Tower. After all, the last assassination of Suiyu Tower was messed up, and the Yunyu Pavilion he was supporting also had people in North County. At first, he planned to let the people from Yunyu Pavilion take action. However, the recent calls for a neutral prince have become louder and louder, which gave Lu Shiyun a sense of urgency. He needed help from the Chu family as soon as possible. Once he gets the help of the Chu family, he will basically get the support of the Jiangnan family, and the possibility of him being established as the prince will be greatly increased. Lu Shiyun also sent people to contact the Chu family recently, but the Chu family didn't seem to be very interested in him. This made Lu Shiyun always feel that the Chu family had not given up on his useless emperor brother. In his opinion, the mysterious Grand Master around Lu Chen was sent by the Chu family. The Chu family had already sent a Grand Master to protect Lu Chen, so how could they give up on him? Therefore, Lu Chen must be eliminated. Lu Shiyun asked at this time, "How strong is the deputy owner of Blood Moon Tower?" Lu Shiyun's subordinate immediately replied, "Back to your highness, it is said that his strength has reached half-step master." Lu Shiyun thought for a while, even if the Grand Master beside Lu Chen was still there, the deputy building owner of the Blood Moon building should be able to hold him back, and then other people in the Blood Moon building would have the opportunity to take advantage of Lu Chen. Moreover, Yunyu Pavilion also sent many experts to Beijing. Lu Chen only had at most one Grand Master and Chu Yukan by his side. As for Li Feng, he is only a 7th grade man and is not something to be afraid of. Lu Chen then said to the man in the room, "Go and tell Sui Yulu, 5 times the price is 5 times the price, but I must see the head of King Bei." "Yes, your highness." After the man finished speaking, he left the room, leaving only the veiled woman still in the room. Lu Chen said to the woman again at this time, "Write a letter to Wang Qingkai immediately and ask her to cooperate with the Blood Moon Tower's assassination operation. If the Blood Moon Tower can lure the Grand Master of the North Palace away, the Anya Pavilion will take action immediately." "Yes." After saying that, the woman also left the room. Lu Chen put his hand on the windowsill, looking in the direction of the palace, tapping his fingers on the windowsill, and murmured, "My good brother, it's almost time for you to go down. The capital, the residence of the eldest prince." Looking at the information in his hand, the eldest prince Lu Yi smiled and said, "Xiao Ba is really cruel and ruthless. Xiao Ju has already gone to Beijing, and I don't plan to let him go yet." At this time, a retainer wearing grey clothes next to Lu Yi said, "Your Highness, what are you going to do this time?" Lu Yi thought for a moment and said, "I originally thought that by spreading the rumor that Xiao Ju was protected by a Grand Master, Xiao Ba would retreat. It seems that this trick is useless. Xiao Ju cannot die. If he dies, how can I win over the Chu family?" Lu Yi and Lu Chen have different parent identities and different positions, so they have different things to do. Lu Chen wanted to get rid of Lu Chen because he wanted the Chu family to have no choice, because his mother also came from the Jiangnan family. Without Lu Chen, the Jiangnan family would have no choice but to fully support him. Lu Yi, on the other hand, believed that Lu Chen was the grandson of Chu Xiang, the head of the Chu family. Even if the Chu family had really given up on Lu Chen, Chu Xiang still had personal feelings for Lu Chen. Getting rid of Lu Chen would be tantamount to offending Chu Xiang. Even if the Chu family really had to support Lu Chen because of the interests of the Jiangnan family, this incident would still leave a knot in Chu Xiang's heart. What Lu Yi wants to do is very simple. He wants the Chu family to see his goodwill, thereby further dividing the Chu family and other Jiangnan aristocratic families. Therefore, Lu Yi's stance is more inclined to protect Lu Chen. Moreover, in his opinion, Lu Chen was just an ignorant and useless prince. A prince like Lu Chen did not pose any threat to his position as prince. In the future, when he inherits the throne, he can even support Lu Chen to become the new talker of the Jiangnan family. An ignorant and useless prince will be much easier to control than those of the Jiangnan family. At this time, Lu Yi said to a guest next to him, "Mo Dongping, later you will spread the news that the deputy owner of the Blood Moon Tower went to Beijing. The deputy building owner of Blood Moon Building is going to Beijing, which makes Lu Yi have to worry about whether Lu Chen is really going to commit suicide this time." Lu Yi thought in his heart, "Xiaju, brother Huang, I can only help you so far. The next step will depend on whether your fate is strong or not." At this time, Lu Chen didn't know what was happening in the capital. For the next period of time, he still stayed in Buwang Mansion, cultivating feelings with Zhou Yuyu every day. Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao are both pregnant, and now Zhou Yuyu is left alone to serve Lu Chen, which makes Zhou Yuyu miserable. Lu Chen was already a 4th-level warrior, and since he had taken the Dragon Tiger pill, Zhou Yuyu, a weak woman, was no match for him. North Courtyard. Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao said this while walking towards the yard. According to the perfume drawings provided by Lu Chen, they have already produced some perfumes. There are many flowers planted in the North Courtyard, and they plan to use these flowers in the North Courtyard to try to make new perfumes. But just as they were about to enter the courtyard, they heard a faint female voice coming from the pavilion in the distance. The voice was sometimes deep, sometimes high-pitched. At this time, the 2 maids responsible for Zhou Yuyu's food and daily life came to Mu Zixuan and the others with red faces. "I've met the princess." Seeing the 2 little maids' faces so red, they instantly understood what had happened. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao said tentatively, "Sister, now that I am pregnant, only Yu is left to serve the prince. And the prince seems to like doing that more and more recently. Yu can't handle it alone. Do you want to ask him if he is willing to take a concubine?" Zhou Xiaoxiao knew that she was just Lu Chen's concubine, so it was not appropriate for her to talk about taking a concubine, so she could only let Mu Zixuan do it. She didn't know if Mu Zixuan was willing or not. After all, Mu Zixuan was the princess and the mistress of the North Palace. Hearing Zhou Xiaoxiao's words, Mu Zixuan sighed, "Sister, I have actually told the prince about concubinage a long time ago. The prince said that his attitude towards concubinage is that he would rather be lacking than indiscriminately, and he would not look at ordinary women. Superior." Chapter 19. It's time to take down Wang Qingkai. Mu Zixuan has always been very open-minded about Lu Chen's concubinage. She doesn't care about Lu Chen's concubinage at all. But Lu Chen himself had very high requirements for concubines, and Mu Zixuan had no choice about this. After hearing Mu Zixuan's words, Zhou Xiaoxiao whispered in Mu Zixuan's ear, "Sister, don't we have a woman in the palace who meets the prince's vision?" Hearing this, Mu Zixuan was stunned for a moment, and then she instantly understood that the woman Zhou Xiaoxiao was talking about. Mu Zixuan said calmly, "Xiaoxiao, we can't interfere with Aunt Chu's affairs. It depends on the wishes of the prince and Aunt Chu." Everyone in the palace knew that the relationship between Chu Yukan and Lu Chen was not simple. It could be seen from the look in Lu Chen's eyes at Chu Yukan that Lu Chen wanted to eat her up. However, Chu Yukan's identity is quite special. It is not an easy task for Lu Chen to win over Chu Yukan. Chu Yukan was married before. Although the other person died just after she got married and they didn't even have time to get married, she was already considered a member of that family. She could be said to be a widow now. It would be okay if Chu Yukan married just an ordinary family. After all, Lu Chen was the king of the north and had a certain status. He could force people from the other family to divorce their wives or break off the engagement. But Chu Yukan married into the Wang family. The Wang family was second only to the Chu family in strength among the Jiangnan aristocratic families, and the Wang family was also the mother family of the 8th Prince Lu Shiyun. Lu Chen wanted to use the identity of the northern king to get the Wang family to divorce Chu Yukan. Basically unlikely. Of course, the biggest obstacle is Chu Yukan. People in Buwang Mansion could also see that Chu Yukan completely regarded Buwang as a child and his junior. In addition, she has a soft temperament, and it is unlikely that she will accept Lu Chen's love between a man and a woman. After hearing Mu Zixuan's words, Zhou Xiaoxiao curled her lips and did not continue. Mu Zixuan thought of Wang Qingkai from Beihualu at this time. If Lu Chen could subdue Wang Qingkai as soon as possible, maybe Zhou Yuyu wouldn't have to work so hard. But this is also not something she can interfere with. Thinking of this, Mu Zixuan sighed slightly. After a while, when the sound in the pavilion almost stopped, Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao entered the courtyard. At this time, Zhou Yuyu's clothes were loose and her hair was messy, and she was lying helplessly in Lu Chen's arms. She fell in love with Lu Chen at first sight, so she was very happy when Lu Chen developed a relationship with her. But recently, without his sister and princess to share the firepower, and because Lu Chen had become so fierce for some reason, Zhou Yuyu couldn't bear it. After seeing Mu Zixuan and the others entering the courtyard, Lu Chen guessed that they must have heard the sound just now, but he didn't care at all. The palace is divided into inner and outer courtyards. Currently, several courtyards in the inner courtyard are occupied by female guards, and Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao are his concubines, so if they hear it, they will hear it, and it is no big deal. At this time, Mu Zixuan took the initiative and said, "Your Majesty, we have made the perfume according to the method you provided." After Mu Zixuan finished speaking, the maid beside her walked into the pavilion carrying a wooden box, and then placed the wooden box on the stone table of the pavilion. After hearing this, Lu Chen then picked up Zhou Yuyu in his arms and let her sit on the bench in the pavilion. Zhou Yuyu's maid saw this and hurried over to help Zhou Yuyu. Lu Chen came to the stone table, took out a small porcelain bottle from the wooden box, then opened the cork and smelled it. Affected by the production method, Wang Fu's perfume is very natural, and even if the fragrance is strong, it will not choke your nose. Lu Chen said with satisfaction, "My beloved, Xiao Xiao, you have worked hard." Zhou Xiao Xiao asked at this time, "Your Majesty, how do you plan to sell this perfume?" Wang Fu's perfume is much easier to use than ordinary sachets, and the fragrance lasts longer. When needed, just take out the bottle and drop a few drops. Lu Chen thought for a moment, and then said, "Perfume is not as necessary as soap, so it should be more expensive, 1 or 2 silver a bottle." Hearing this, Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao were stunned. However, they quickly realized that although Lu Chen's price was relatively high, as women, they knew very well that after the perfume was launched, it would definitely attract the attention of countless girls. At this time, Mu Zixuan asked curiously, "Your Majesty, where did you get the method for making this perfume?" The perfume production drawings given by Lu Chen are very clear. Each step is illustrated, so you can learn it at a glance. When they were making the perfume, they didn't even let the servants do it. Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao made the perfume themselves. Hearing Mu Zixuan's question, Lu Chen smiled slightly, and then replied shamelessly, "I researched this when I had nothing to do." The girls were very surprised when they heard Lu Chen's answer. The outside world said that King Bei was ignorant and incompetent, but he was able to develop these 2 practical items. At this moment, Mu Zixuan suddenly thought of something, so she continued, "Your Majesty, I plan to invite Miss Wang from Beihualo to come to the mansion and discuss with her about letting the girls from Beihualo try out the perfume in advance. What do you think?" Mu Zixuan thought that it was not a problem for Lu Chen to always focus on Zhou Yuyu. Since Lu Chen had already set his sights on Wang Qingkai, she would give Wang Qingkai more opportunities to appear in front of Lu Chen. Moreover, letting the Warren from Beihualo try the perfume can quickly build the reputation of the perfume. With perfume, men who go to Beihualo in the future will definitely be covered in fragrance when they return home, and the fragrance will not dissipate for a long time. At that time, the female family members of those men might try to find out how they got their scent. When Lu Chen heard Mu Zixuan mention Wang Qingkai, that enchanting figure instantly appeared in his mind. For a moment, Lu Chen felt that the blood and energy in his body were surging. After taking Longhe pill, it became more and more difficult for him to control himself. If he didn't cultivate his relationship with Zhou Yuyu every day, he couldn't sleep at night. Lu Chen was speechless. It wouldn't be a problem if things continued like this. Both Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao were pregnant recently. According to his current ability, Zhou Yuyu might be pregnant soon. What would he do if they were both pregnant? If I had known it earlier, I would not have taken the Dragon Tiger pill. This Dragon Tiger pill is really harmful to people. At this time, the system prompt sounds. Host, please rest assured that the host cannot control the medicinal properties of Dragon Tiger pill now because the host's realm is not high enough. After the host breaks through to the 9th level warrior, he will be able to easily suppress his desires. The corners of Lu Chen's mouth twitched. 9th grade? His cultivation method is to cultivate relationships with his wives and concubines, but I'm afraid Zhou Yuyu got pregnant before he reached the 9th rank. There are so few women with a score of 90 in Yanchenj, a ghost place like this. When will he be able to break through to the 9th level? It seems that it is time to capture Wang Qingkai. Wang Qingkai is a 9th grade warrior, and her physical strength is not comparable to that of ordinary weak women. After capturing her, his chi refining technique should be able to break through to the 2nd level soon. Chapter 20 I want to talk to you alone. Lu Chen was a little helpless when it came to having children and improving his cultivation. His cultivation method was to cultivate relationships with his wives and concubines, but the system told him that he would only be able to obtain more generous rewards if he gave birth to children. But if his wives and concubines are pregnant, who will he turn to cultivate relationships? A woman with a score of 90 is not a piece of cabbage, and she cannot be found just by looking for it. How can his cultivation improve if no one cultivates feelings? Thinking of this, Lu Chen became more determined to capture Wang Qingkai. The higher the level of the warrior, the less likely it is to become pregnant. From now on, she will be used for training. Then Lu Chen said to Mu Zixuan, "My dear concubine, you must inform Aunt Chu and I before you invite Miss Wang here. Wang Qingkai is a 9th level warrior, so he still needs to be on guard." Mu Zixuan said, "I understand." At this time, Lu Chen glanced at Zhou Yuyu who was still resting on the bench in the pavilion, and said with a smile, "Yuyu, have a good rest. I will come back to you in the evening." Hearing this, Zhou Yuyu was stunned. "Are you coming again tonight? Woohoo, save the child." A few days later, Bei Hualu. Wang Qingkai was half lying on the beauty's couch, her clothes were loose and loose. At this time, she murmured, "It is a pity that such a handsome man should be killed like this." Ever since Wang Qingkai returned from the palace, she could not help but think of Lu Chen in her mind. She didn't realize that she was influenced by Long Feng Ti. After all, Lu Chen was indeed handsome. Seeing the note in his hand, Wang Qingkai felt a little regretful. Soon, the deputy owner of the Blood Moon Tower will come to Beijing. At that time, regardless of whether the Grand Master of the North Prince's palace is still there or not, Yunyu Pavilion must assassinate the North Prince. When he thought of that handsome figure, Wang Qingkai felt a little reluctant. At this time, the corner of Wang Qingkai's mouth raised slightly, and then she said to herself, "Little prince, don't blame your sister for being cruel. If you do, blame yourself for being born into the royal family." At this moment, a maid entered the room and said from behind the curtain, "Master, the Northern Palace has sent someone to invite you over. They say they have something important to discuss." Hearing this, Wang Qingkai asked, "Is it King Bei who is looking for me?" The maid replied, "It seems that it is not King Bei who is looking for you, but the princess." Wang Qingkai wondered what Mu Zixuan wanted to do with him. Could it be because of the soap thing? But having said that, whether Mu Zixuan is looking for her or King Bei is looking for her, she will definitely go. Since there was a legitimate reason to enter the Buwang mansion, why didn't she go? She could take the opportunity to find out if the mysterious master was still in Buwang mansion, and seduce Buwang by the way. Thinking of King Bei's handsome face, Wang Qingkai felt a little restless. Wang Qingkai then got up from the beauty's bed, then straightened out her loose clothes. "I'll go right away." As they approached, Wang Qingkai headed to the North Palace. When the servants of the North Palace took Wang Qingkai into the backyard, Chu Yukin was patrolling and happened to see Wang Qingkai. She frowned immediately, and then said, "Wait a minute." Wang Qingkai's heart tightened when he heard Chu Yukin's voice. Chu Yukin is a 9th grade warrior, and it is easy to detect that she is also a warrior. If she reveals her identity as a warrior, Chu Yukin may become suspicious. In order not to be exposed, Wang Qingkai immediately stopped. Chu Yukin came to Wang Qingkai at this time and asked, "Who are you? Why have I never seen you before?" Wang Qingkai immediately saluted and replied, "Mrs. Chu, I am the Warren of Beiwa House. This time I came to the palace at the invitation of the princess." Chu Yukin looked at Wang Qingkai carefully. She couldn't help but think that this woman was very charming. Could it be that Zixuan planned to let this woman serve Chen? Of course, Chu Yukin knew what happened in the inner courtyard recently. Zhou Yuyu had difficulty walking these days. If she didn't let Lu Chen take a concubine, Zhou Yuyu might not be able to bear it anymore. But Chu Yukin looked at Wang Qingkai with some suspicion. She always felt that this woman was not simple. She seemed to have felt the inner strength of this woman just now. But now it seems that this woman is no different from ordinary people. After thinking for a while, Chu Yukan finally said, "Okay, you go in." Immediately afterwards, the servants of the palace continued to take Wang Qing to leave the north courtyard. After entering the north courtyard, Wang Qingkai's eyes fell on Lu Chen inside the pavilion. She didn't know why, but she couldn't help but want to look at Lu Chen now. Wang Qingkai walked into the pavilion and immediately squatted down to salute and said, "The daughter of the people has met the prince and the princess." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Get up." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Then Wang Qingkai looked at Lu Chen and asked, "I wonder what the prince is asking me to come to the palace for." Lu Chen replied, "I am not looking for you, it is my beloved concubine who is looking for you. You guys can talk about things. I'm just sitting here and won't disturb you." Music Xuan immediately took out some small porcelain bottles from the wooden box on the stone table. "Miss Wang, come here." Seeing the small porcelain bottle on the stone table, Wang Qingkai came to the stone table curiously. At this time, Music Xuan opened a porcelain vase, and a burst of floral fragrance instantly poured into Wang Qingkai's nose. Music Xuan immediately said, "Miss Wang, this is a perfume made by our palace. The fragrance lasts for a very long time. We plan to let the girls from Beihualo try it for a period of time and help our palace to promote it." After hearing this, Wang Qingkai realized that it turned out that she was looking for something serious. She thought it was King Bei who was looking for her to have a romantic relationship. Wang Qingkai then took the porcelain bottle from Music Xuan's hand and smelled it closely. The floral fragrance was very strong, but not pungent. It was a very natural fragrance. Wang Qingkai then asked, "Princess, may I ask, how long will the fragrance of this perfume last?" Music Xuan replied, "The smell of one drop of perfume can last for about 3 hours. And this perfume is different from the sachet. You can take out a drop of this perfume and put it on yourself at any time to keep the fragrance on your body all day long. And just one bottle can be used for a long time." Wang Qingkai's eyes lit up when she heard this. Although she came here for King Bei, this perfume attracted her even more. "I didn't expect Bawang Mansion to have such a good thing." Wang Qingkai then looked at the other porcelain bottles in the wooden box. "Princess, can I smell the fragrance of the other porcelain bottles?" "Of course. The perfumes in this wooden box are all the ones I plan to give to you at Beihualo to try." Wang Qingkai immediately said, "Thank you, Princess, for the reward." After finishing his words, Wang Qingkai opened other porcelain bottles and smelled them. Each scent was different, but these scents were relatively natural, making people want to smell them. At this time, Lu Chen used the system to identify Wang Qingkai's personal information. Name, Wang Qingkai. Identity, 9th grade warrior, the adopted daughter of the Jiangnan Wang family, the saint of Yanyu Pavilion, and the temporary owner of Beihua Tower. She rushed over immediately after hearing that Bawang Mansion was looking for her. Recently, the figure of Bawang always appears in her mind. She felt very pity in her heart when she thought that the deputy landlord of Blood Moon Tower would come to assassinate King Bei soon. Rating, 95. Favorability, 60, continuously affected by Long Feng Tea. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He did not expect that Sui Yulu would dare to come to trouble him. But now was not the time to think about this. Seeing that Wang Qingkai had a favorable impression of 60, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. It was time to reap the rewards. Thinking of this, Lu Chen said to Wang Qingkai, who was trying out the perfume, "Miss Wang, I heard that your Beihua building is the busiest place in the entire North County." Wang Qingkai immediately said, "Your Majesty, Beihua Tower may not be the busiest place in the entire North County, but it must be the busiest place in Yanchinj." Lu Chen continued, "Your Beihua building is so lively, so you must know a lot of things that others don't know. I want to talk to you alone later and find out something about what happened in Beijun. Are you willing?" Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Chapter 21 Wang Qingkai panicked. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Wang Qingkai was stunned, and the jade hand holding the perfume bottle stopped in mid-air. Didn't she come to Bei Wang mansion just to get close to Bei Wang? Unexpectedly, Bei Wang actually offered to talk to him alone. Then this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If she could capture Bei Wang's heart, wouldn't she be able to find out the whereabouts of the mysterious master in Bei Wang's mansion? Not only that, if she can capture Bei Wang's heart, she can also find a way to lure Bei Wang out after the people from the Blood Moon Tower arrive, and then they will be able to complete their mission more easily. And maybe they can complete the mission without waiting for the people from Blood Moon Tower to arrive. Thinking of this, Wang Qingkai immediately said to Lu Chen, "Of course, it is an honor for the slave family." Lu Chen smiled and said, "In that case, let's talk somewhere else." Having said this, Lu Chen looked at Mu Zixuan and said, "My dear concubine, I plan to have a chat with Miss Wang alone. As for these trial perfumes, you can have them delivered directly to Beihua Tower." Mu Zixuan knew that Lu Chen was planning to capture Wang Qingkai, so she immediately said, "Okay, Your Majesty, I will have these perfumes delivered to Beihua Tower later." At this time, Lu Chen stood up from the bench in the pavilion, turned around and walked out of the yard. "Miss Wang, please come with me and I will take you to a quiet place." Hearing this, Wang Qingkai sneered in his heart. What a lustful guy! Although they were alone together, Wang Qingkai was not worried at all about what Lu Chen would do to him. In her opinion, Lu Chen was a useless prince. Apart from being born with a good skin, he has no strength whatsoever. How could she, a 9th-level warrior, be afraid of a useless prince? If Lu Chen wanted to do anything to her later, she could find various excuses to avoid it. This was how she did to the men she wanted to assassinate in the past. If Lu Chen insists on being tough, she can also use the charming skill to seduce Lu Chen and make him fall into a sweet dream. Wang Qingkai has 100 ways to deal with an ordinary person, which comes from his confidence in his own strength. Wang Qingkai followed Lu Chen to the main courtyard while thinking about how to deal with Lu Chen later. When Lu Chen and Wang Qingkai entered the room, Mu Zixuan immediately invited Chu Yukan. Chu Yukan was a little confused. What did Mu Zixuan want to do with her? Although Mu Zixuan believed what Lu Chen said, she was still worried about what problems might arise. After all, Lu Chen and Wang Qingkai were alone, and Wang Qingkai was a 9th-level warrior. Seeing Mu Zixuan standing at the door of the main courtyard, Chu Yukan came over and asked, "Zixuan, what do you want from me?" After this period of getting along, Chu Yukan and Mu Zixuan have become very familiar with each other. Chu Yukan calls Mu Zixuan and basically no longer calls her princess, but directly calls her by her first name. Mu Zixuan said at this time, "Aunt Chu, the prince has brought Miss Wang into the room. I was afraid that something would happen, so I asked you to come over and watch." Hearing this, Chu Yukan looked at Mu Zixuan with confusion. "Zixuan, the Miss Wang you are talking about is the one you called to the palace?" Mu Zixuan replied, "Yes." Chu Yukan didn't understand. She just thought that Mu Zixuan called the Warren from Beihualo to come here just to let her serve Lu Chen. As a result, Mu Zixuan now lets herself come here to watch. What does it mean? Could it be that Mu Zixuan is jealous? Want to make your own review? Chu Yukan then continued to ask, "Are you going to let me talk about Chener? Tell him not to have contact with prostitutes." Hearing Chu Yukan's words, Mu Zixuan immediately realized that Chu Yukan had misunderstood, so she immediately explained, "Aunt Chu, you misunderstood. What I mean is that the prince is inevitably a little uncomfortable when he is alone with others. Be safe. If something happens later, please take action as soon as possible." Only then did Chu Yukan realize that Mu Zixuan was worried that the Warren from Beihualo would be unfavorable to Lu Chen. But having said that, Mu Zixuan is right to be so cautious. She had previously thought that there was something wrong with the Warren from Beihualu. That woman walked very lightly, much like those masters who were very good at lightness kung fu. It was indeed dangerous for Lu Chen to be alone with a warrior who seemed to have internal power. Chu Yukan said, I understand. Once there is something strange in the room, I will go in immediately. At the same time, inside the room, Lu Chen sat at the table, brewed a pot of dragon and phoenix tea, and then said to Wang Qingkai with a smile, Miss Wang, please sit down. Thank you, Your Majesty. Then Wang Qingkai slowly sat down. At this time, her buttocks were somewhat dented by the stool, and it was obvious that her body was very soft. At this time, Wang Qingkai asked with a hint of flattery, My lord, what do you want to know about Beijun? I must tell you everything you know. Lu Chen didn't make any moves as soon as he came up. He asked seriously, Miss Wang, does she know of any beautiful girls in Beijun? Especially the beauties who have conquered the country and the city, and are shy of the moon. Hearing Lu Chen's question, Wang Qingkai couldn't help but despise Lu Chen. He was indeed a womanizer. When I first came to Beijun, I asked about any beauties in Beijun. It's not surprising when you think about it. This guy just took 2 concubines not long ago, and he probably wants to take another concubine now. Then Wang Qingkai replied, Your Majesty, Beijun is different from the capital. It may not be that easy to find a woman with the kind of talent that will captivate a country. However, the new family heard that there was a very beautiful woman on the grassland. Hearing this, Lu Chen suddenly became interested. Oh? Miss Wang is talking about the barbarians in the grassland. How come barbarians have beautiful women? Wang Qingkai said, Your Majesty, although most women on the grassland are relatively strong and do not conform to the aesthetics of men in the Great Xia Dynasty, there are still many beautiful women with good figures in the barbarian royal court. The beautiful woman I am talking about right in the royal court of the barbarians. Lu Chen thought for a moment. He was not able to deal with women in the barbarian royal court now, so he still wanted to be practical. Miss Wang, please tell me about the women I have access to now. The barbarian royal court is not a place I can go to now. Wang Qingkai smiled and said coquettishly, My lord, isn't the beautiful woman you have access to right now right in front of you? Hearing this, the corners of Lu Chen's mouth raised slightly. Wang Qingkai could no longer hold back and wanted to start seducing herself. If that's the case, then he won't be polite. His little yo-yo can have a day off today. Lu Chen then put a hand on Wang Qingkai's jade leg, and then said with a smile, What Miss Wang is saying is that it's my fault that I don't look at the person in front of me and actually want to go out to look for beautiful women. At this time, the fragrance from Wang Qingkai hit Lu Chen's nostrils crazily, and Lu Chen's body immediately became restless. His current state of mind is not enough, and it is not easy to control his desires. Of course, Lu Chen had no intention of controlling it today. Seeing Lu Chen start to make moves, Wang Qingkai knew that the conditions were ripe and he could now use the charming skill to deal with Lu Chen. People who are seduced by Mei Gong will be at her mercy. She can later ask where the mysterious master from the palace has gone. Immediately, Wang Qingkai looked at Lu Chen, and then said with tears in his eyes, My lord, you hate it. How can you touch others whenever you get up? Having said this, Wang Qingkai looked into Lu Chen's eyes, and then prepared to use the charm technique. However, the next second, Wang Qingkai was dumbfounded. The power in her body disappeared completely, and now she was no different from an ordinary woman. Wang Qingkai was confused. How could this happen? To make a warrior lose his power, he must be given some kind of medicine to dispel his power. But since she entered the palace, she hasn't eaten anything? She didn't even drink the tea that King Bei made after entering the room just now. Seeing Wang Qingkai's expression change drastically, Lu Chen knew that she should have realized the seriousness of the problem. But unfortunately, it's all too late. Lu Chen then hugged Wang Qingkai's soft and delicate body, Miss Wang, you are so beautiful. I want you to be my woman. Hearing this, Wang Qingkai panicked instantly. She quickly said, Your Majesty, we have only known each other for a short time. Isn't it too soon? Why don't we get to know each other for a while longer? Wang Qingkai found that not only had he lost all his skills, but he also had no strength at all. He could not use any strength to push Lu Chen away, as if she had really been drugged. As a warrior, how could Wang Qingkai not understand her current situation? If Lu Chen wanted to do something to her now, she would have no ability to resist. Seeing that Wang Qingkai was panicking, Lu Chen lifted her chin with his hand, looked into her beautiful eyes and said, Miss Wang, you are familiar with me once, and you are familiar with me the other time. Since you want to understand each other, it is better to get to know each other deeply. Having said this, Lu Chen kissed Wang Qingkai's red lips. Wang Qingkai tried to push Lu Chen away, but it had no effect at all. She could only make a whimpering sound. After a while, Lu Chen directly carried this charming beauty to his bed and began to cultivate feelings. Some readers say that I update less. Let me tell you, this book is updated daily at 4000, which is 2 chapters. Because of the recommendation, it cannot be updated too fast. Principle of additional updates. If the recommendation votes exceed 200, one update will be added. If the reward exceeds 10,000 book coins, one update will be added. Add up to 2 updates. Chapter 22 Aunt Chu, I actually have my own reasons. Ding! Congratulations to the host for having a woman again and obtaining the all-invulnerable elixir. The host cultivated a relationship with Wang Qingkai once, and gained 20 experience points for the Qi refining technique, and 10 additional experience points for the rejuvenation hand. Although the system prompts were ringing in his ears, Lu Chen had no intention of paying attention to them now. He is completely crazy now. He finally understands why Wang Qingkai has a score of 95. Although they are all above 90, this woman is the best of the best, making him unable to control himself. At this moment, the entrance to the main courtyard. Mu Zixuan was waiting anxiously, but at this moment, they seemed to vaguely hear the sound coming from the room. Hearing this voice, Mu Zixuan breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the prince had succeeded. Next, another 9th grade master was added to the palace. Chu Yukin's face was a little rosy at this time. The princess took herself to eavesdrop on the wall, which gave her a strange feeling in her heart. Recently, she always thought of Lu Chen's handsome face in the dead of night, which was accompanied by endless emptiness and loneliness. Chu Yukin kept reminding herself in her heart that Lu Chen was her sister's son, and she couldn't have that kind of feelings for him, but during the day, she couldn't help but peek at Lu Chen. Every time she heard the mixed voices of Lu Chen and other women, she couldn't restrain her inner agitation even more, but it happened that Lu Chen, a bad guy, liked to mess around in the inner courtyard. If this continues, I'm afraid she will really do something outrageous. At this time, Chu Yukin quickly used her skills to stabilize her mind and not let herself think too much. While Chu Yukin was doing her exercises, she reminded herself in her heart. Chen'er is Sister Yu's son, I must not have any inappropriate thoughts. At this time, Mu Zixuan on the side saw Chu Yukin closing her eyes and turning red. She couldn't help covering her mouth and snickering. After all, she is a woman, and she is a woman who has never had sex with a man. It would be abnormal if she was not touched by those voices. However, this also shows that Chu Yukin has thoughts about the prince in her heart, but due to the identity issue between them, she has been suppressing her inner feelings between man and woman. At this moment, Mu Zixuan suddenly thought of something. It seems that Chu Yukin has been drinking dragon and phoenix tea recently. Others don't know the effects of dragon and phoenix tea, so they don't know what drinking dragon and phoenix tea means, but she knows because Lu Chen told her. Mu Zixuan thought to herself, does the prince really intend to turn Chu Yukin into his woman? He is now able to subdue Wang Qingkai, a 9th-level warrior, by relying on dragon and phoenix tea, and Chu Yukin is also drinking dragon and phoenix tea. This means that if Lu Chen insists on making Chu Yukin his woman in the near future, Chu Yukin couldn't resist. Thinking of this, Mu Zixuan glanced at Chu Yukin meaningfully. It seemed that Chu Yukin would never be able to escape from their prince's clutches in this life. 6. The time of pain is long and the time of happiness is short. But the long and short time are relative. For example, Lu Chen felt that time was very short, while Wang Qingkai felt that time was very long. Wang Qingkai tried every means to escape, but was eventually pulled back by Lu Chen. She felt extremely humiliated in her heart. She, a 9th-grade warrior, fell into the hands of an ordinary person today, and she didn't know how she fell into the trap. An unknown number of hours later, Lu Chen hugged Wang Qingkai's waist tightly, smiled in her ear and said, "Qingkai, I didn't expect that you, and Warren from Beiwa Tower, are actually uniting. It seems like I'm pretty lucky." Lu Chen's words at this time were like the whispers of the devil. Wang Qingkai gritted his teeth and wanted to scold him, but finally held back. She had to find a way to leave the palace and leave this place where she suffered so much humiliation. After her skills are restored, she will come back to kill the person who took away her innocence. Wang Qingkai then said in delicate words, "Your Majesty, please let me go. My family is in danger." Hearing Wang Qingkai's voice, Lu Chen became even more agitated. Lu Chen said, "Qingkai, how about you live in the palace from now on? I will buy you and let you serve me all the time." Hearing this, Wang Qingkai's face suddenly turned pale. She quickly said, "Your Majesty, the slave family still has a lot of things in Beiwa building. If the prince really wants to buy the slave family, then let the slave family go back to Beiwa building and bring the slave family's things to the palace." Lu Chen stroked Wang Qingkai's jade back and said, "Those things are dispensable, just buy new ones. Anyway, our palace has no shortage of money." Wang Qingkai quickly found a new excuse and said, "Your Majesty, the new family grew up in Beiwa building. They have a very deep relationship with the sisters in Beiwa building. The new family can't bear to let them go. If the prince really likes the slave family, can he give the slave family some time to say goodbye to them?" Now she could only play the emotional card and let Lu Chen let her go. Lu Chen said, "Okay, I'll give you a month, what do you think?" Wang Qingkai thought, a month? Coincidentally, the people from the Blood Moon Tower arrived soon. 1 month would be the day when this guy would die. At that time, she would personally deal with this guy to vent her hatred. Although he thought so in his heart, Wang Qingkai still said charmingly, "Thank you very much, Your Majesty. I will serve you well in the future." Seeing Wang Qingkai's fair body, Lu Chen couldn't help but develop feelings for Wang Qingkai again. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen asked Wang Qingkai to leave. When Wang Qingkai walked out of the palace gate, her body was still trembling, her whole body was weak, and she needed the support of the palace's maids to walk. At this time, Wang Qingkai turned his head and glanced at the plaque of the palace. The expression on his face instantly became extremely cold, and a strong killing intent flashed in his eyes. "King Bei, just wait for me, your death will be soon." After putting aside the harsh words in his heart, Wang Qingkai turned around and returned to Beiwa Tower. After Wang Qingkai left, Lu Chen came out of the room and happened to see Chu Yukin and Mu Zixuan. Mu Zixuan said at this time, "Congratulations to the prince for capturing the heart of this beauty." Lu Chen came to Mu Zixuan, hugged Mu Zixuan's body, and then said softly, "This is all thanks to your arrangement, my beloved concubine." At this time, Chu Yukin reminded from the side, "Chener, I find that you have become more and more ridiculous recently, and you actually brought the Warren into your home. If people find out about this, what will the people of Beijun think of you? You are their king." After hearing Chu Yukin's scolding, Lu Chen sighed and said, "Aunt Chu, actually I have my own reasons. Hearing this, Chu Yukin was stunned for a moment, and then asked, "What's the reason?" Although Chu Yukin thought that Lu Chen was making excuses for his lust, Chu Yukin was different from ordinary people. She usually listened to Lu Chen's explanation. Lu Chen then said to Mu Zixuan, "My beloved concubine, please tell Aunt Chu what my difficulties are." Mu Zixuan was stunned for a moment. How did she know what Lu Chen's difficulties were? As a husband, doesn't he just like beauty? However, Mu Zixuan reacted quickly, and then said to Chu Yukin, "Aunt Chu, I will tell you about the prince later. He does have his own reasons." Hearing this, Chu Yukin looked at Mu Zixuan with suspicion. She now seriously doubted whether Lu Chen and Mu Zixuan were playing a double act. After all, the husband sang and the wife followed, but she had no evidence. Then Chu Yukin said nothing more. "I'm going on patrol, you guys can chat." Chapter 23 Lu Chen's difficulties. Seeing Chu Yukin's leaving figure, Mu Zixuan couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh again. Lu Chen asked doubtfully, "My dear concubine, why are you laughing?" Mu Zixuan replied, "My lord, you didn't see Aunt Chu's expression just now. When she was at the gate of the hospital, her face was red and she looked very tormented." Lu Chen thought that this must be the effect of dragon phoenix tea. Mu Zixuan asked at this time, "Your Majesty, has Miss Wang really surrendered to you completely?" Lu Chen thought for a moment. When Wang Qingkai left just now, he glanced at Wang Qingkai's favorability. Wang Qingkai's favorability did not drop because of his hard work. On the contrary, under the influence of Long Feng tea, the favorability level increased by 10, reaching 70. But it is still early to say that we have surrendered completely. Lu Chen then said, "Not yet, but if she comes to the palace a few more times, I believe she will soon be reluctant to leave the palace." Mu Zixuan said, "Then I wish the prince to conquer Miss Wang as soon as possible." Lu Chen smiled slightly and said nothing more. After Wang Qingkai returned to Beiwa Tower, she immediately carefully recalled what she had done after entering the palace. After all, she was a 9th level expert, but she was drugged without her noticing. Fortunately, King Bei didn't know her identity, he just wanted to covet her beauty. If King Bei wanted to kill her today, she would probably be dead. She would never allow this to happen a second time. After Wang Qingkai thought for a while, she still didn't think of the place where she might have been drugged. At this time, Wang Qingkai suddenly thought of something, and she immediately took out a perfume bottle from the wooden box on the table. The time when she might be drugged is the palace's perfume. Wang Qingkai then opened a perfume bottle and smelled it, but the perfume did not make her lose her power. Immediately afterwards, Wang Qingkai opened all the perfume bottles and smelled all the perfumes, but the power in her body was still there. She suddenly remembered that she immediately recovered her skills after leaving Bei Wang. Could it be that the problem lies with King Bei? But King Bei is just an ordinary person. How can he have such mysterious means? The more Wang Qingkai thought about it, the more confused she became. She was very irritable now. Originally, I just wanted to seduce King Bei, and then use the charming skill to charm him and control him. However, the charm failed, and instead I got caught up in it. The guy had been tormenting her for so long that she even doubted whether she would be pregnant with his child. Wang Qingkai became extremely angry when he thought of this. Damn it! King Bei is such a lecher, sooner or later I will have to castrate him with my own hands. At the same time, North Palace. Lu Chen didn't go to see Zhou Yuyu today. It was a rare day for Zhou Yuyu to rest. After Chu Yukin walked around the inner courtyard, she returned to the main courtyard. At this time, Lu Chen was no longer in the main courtyard, and only Mu Zixuan was still in the pavilion. Chu Yukin immediately came to Mu Zixuan. "Zixuan, Chener said earlier that he had a reason for being lustful. Can you tell me what the reason is?" "This." Mu Zixuan was slightly stunned. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Lu Chen was just making an excuse. Unexpectedly, Chu Yukin really believed that he had his own reasons. What difficulties could he have? It's just pure lust. Of course, as Lu Chen's princess, Mu Zixuan would definitely not say that about her husband. Mu Zixuan thought for a moment, and then replied, Aunt Chu, haven't you noticed that the prince has changed a lot recently? Although he still likes things between men and women, there is a big difference between him and the rumored unlearned king of the north. Difference? After hearing what Mu Zixuan said, Chu Yukin thought for a moment and realized that it was indeed the case. Not to mention that Lu Chen has two mysterious weapons, and Lu Chen also has a tree that can improve his skills. Just judging from his personality, he has also undergone great changes. In the past, he didn't care at all about the affairs of the mansion. Her aunt arranged everything for him. But Lu Chen actually took out soap and perfume recently, thinking of increasing income for the palace. And he seems to have asked Li Feng to actively train the army. Of course, the biggest change was that he had internal energy fluctuations. He was now a warrior. Although she didn't know where his skills came from, he was indeed a warrior. But then again, what does this have to do with his lustful reasons? Chu Yukin continued to ask, Chen'er has indeed changed a lot recently, but what does this have to do with the difficulties he mentioned? Mu Zixuan's brain was spinning rapidly, and then she sighed and said, Aunt Chu, in my opinion, the prince is not ignorant, nor does he really like beauty. All he did was actually for himself. Dirty, to save your life. Think about it, if he was a prince capable of both literary and military skills, would he be able to leave the capital alive? Hearing Mu Zixuan's words, Chu Yukin's mind froze, and she instantly linked together events that had happened in the past. She used to think that Lu Chen was spoiled by her, and thought that Lu Chen would continue to enjoy himself like this in the future, but she never thought that this might be Lu Chen's faking. Thinking about it now, if Lu Chen didn't pretend to be ignorant, many forces might have taken action against him while he was still in the capital. The assassination in Blood Moon Tower is a typical example. He was already regarded as an uneducated and useless prince, and he was even driven to the bitter cold land in the north by the emperor. Even so, there were still people who wouldn't let him go. Then if he behaved a little smarter, wouldn't he be more of a threat to others, and wouldn't those princes want to kill him even more? When she thought that she had misunderstood Lu Chen, Chu Yukin felt extremely guilty. It turns out that it wasn't that Lu Chen didn't grow up from the beginning to the end, it was that she never understood Lu Chen. Lu Chen must have been under a lot of pressure by pretending to be uneducated. She is so incompetent as an aunt. Back then, she said in front of her sister that she would take good care of Chen'er throughout her life, but as a result, she didn't know the pain in Chen'er's heart, and she thought he was ignorant and a lustful person. Mu Zixuan had only been married to Lu Chen for a few months, but she already knew what was buried in Lu Chen's heart. However, she had been with Lu Chen for more than 10 years, but she didn't know his difficulties. At this time, Chu Yukin said to Mu Zixuan in a low mood, Zixuan, you are right. It's because I'm an incompetent aunt. I don't know the pressure he's under. You are the closest person to him now. I hope you can help me take good care of him and share more of my burdens with him. Mu Zixuan smiled and said, Aunt Chu, don't say such things. In the eyes of the prince, you are the closest person to him. Chu Yukin sighed and said, I am the person closest to him. I don't even know what he is thinking in his heart. Mu Zixuan said quickly, Aunt Chu, you must not think like this. In the eyes of the prince, no woman is as important as you. Chu Yukin had a bitter smile on her face and did not continue the topic. Chapter 24 Invite Wang Qingkai again. Half a month passed in a blink of an eye. Today is the opening day of the perfume shop in Bawang Palace. After half a month of publicity by the girls in Beihualu, the whole Yanqing now knows that the perfume produced by Wang Fu is very good. In the morning, as soon as the perfume shop opened, ladies from the noble families of North County poured in. In less than half an hour, all the perfume produced by Wang Fu in the past half-month was sold out. Lu Chen didn't go to the perfume shop. He was studying the map of the world at home. Now that he has decided to fight for that position, he can't just lie down and read nothing like before. At this time, Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao came back. Seeing that they came back so quickly, Lu Chen put down the map in his hand and asked, "My beloved, how are the sales of perfume?" Mu Zixuan did not answer directly, but said, "Your Majesty, I think the price of perfume is still too low." Hearing this, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment, and then he asked, "Why do you think so?" Mu Zixuan replied, "Our palace produced less than 2,000 bottles of perfume in half a month, but all of them were sold out in half an hour." Lu Chen said in surprise, "So fast?" Lu Chen was not a fool. When he priced the perfume at 1 tael a bottle, he actually priced it based on Beijun's economic situation. After all, Beijun is so poor, and there are not that many wealthy families who can afford perfume. But Mu Zixuan told him that all the perfumes were robbed after half an hour. At this time, Zhou Xiaoxiao said from the side, "Your Majesty, there are many outsiders coming to buy perfume, especially caravans from other places. They are very interested in perfume and buy dozens of bottles." Lu Chen instantly understood the reason. It seemed that Wang Fu's perfume was targeted by those merchants, so it sold out so quickly. Those merchants most likely buy perfume not for their own use, but to sell it in other places, such as wealthy places like the capital. Lu Chen thought for a moment and felt that his vision could not be so narrow. In the future, he will need a lot of money to raise an army, and his economic and trade activities must not be limited to Beijun. The people in Beijun didn't have much money in their pockets, so it was basically unrealistic to squeeze money from them to support the army. Thinking of this, Lu Chen looked at Mu Zixuan's 3 daughters, and then asked, "My dear concubine, if you are in the capital now, and you are still a young lady of the Mu family, unmarried, if you hear someone in the capital talking about selling this kind of perfume, how much money are you willing to spend on a bottle of perfume?" Mu Zixuan thought for a moment, and then replied, "Your Majesty, if it is me, I am willing to spend at most 20 taels of silver on a bottle of perfume." Mu Zixuan's identity is represented by the young ladies and wives from wealthy families in the capital. If Mu Zixuan is willing to spend 20 taels of silver on a bottle of perfume, then the other ladies are similar. Then Lu Chen said, "I decided to open another perfume shop in Beijing and Suifengcheng, and the price of perfume will be set at 20 taels of silver in the future. When the production of perfume increases, we will increase the price appropriately according to the exquisiteness of the small porcelain bottle." Lu Chen thought to himself that although he could not return to the capital, there should be no problem selling his shop in the capital. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Mu Zixuan immediately said, "My lord, I need to tell my father about this. Lu Chen has no way to return to the capital, and perfume will definitely be a hugely profitable commodity in the future, so it is inevitable that no one will be jealous, so if he wants to open a shop in the capital, he still needs someone in the capital to keep an eye on him." Lu Chen naturally understood this truth. He smiled and said, "Then I'll trouble my beloved concubine." At this time, Mu Zixuan continued, "My lord, if you want to open a perfume shop in Sufeng City, I'm afraid you have to tell Aunt Chu and ask her to tell the Chu family. Sufeng City is located in the south of the Yangtze River. It is a city where all the major families in the south of the Yangtze River gather. It is also the place where the commerce of the Great Xia Dynasty was most developed. Of course, that place can also be said to be the territory of the Jiangnan family. If a perfume shop wants to open in Sufeng City, it needs someone to watch over it, and it must be from an aristocratic family. If it is not a family, it will definitely not be able to control the scene. Without a family watching, the shop may be robbed in a few days." Lu Chen said, "I will talk to Aunt Chu later." At this time, Chu Yukin was patrolling the outer courtyard. He was not here, and Lu Chen was not in a hurry. Things have to be done slowly, and it will take some time to open a shop. It does not mean that it can be opened immediately. At this time, Zhou Yuyu quietly came behind Mu Zixuan, and then gently pushed Mu Zixuan with her hand, as if to remind her of something. Mu Zixuan reacted instantly. She smiled and asked, "Your Majesty, the perfume is now famous thanks to the publicity of Bei Hualu. Should we invite Miss Wang to come to the palace and thank her personally?" In the past half-month, Lu Chen has been in Zhou Yuyu's room basically every night, and Zhou Yuyu can't bear it anymore. Mu Zixuan and the other three girls also discovered that Lu Chen seemed to have to cultivate relationships with them every day. Mu Zixuan and Zhou Xiaoxiao would occasionally serve Lu Chen, but they had children after all, so Lu Chen would not let them serve them too much. For him, children are more important. Zhou Yuyu wanted Wang Qingkai from Bei Hualu to share the pressure for her, but this kind of thing was definitely not something that a concubine of hers could say, so she asked Mu Zixuan and Lu Chen to say it. It just so happened that today they could use the excuse of thanking Wang Qingkai to invite Wang Qingkai to the palace as a guest. After hearing Mu Zixuan's proposal, Lu Chen said, "Yes, yes, but she must be invited in your name." Half a month had passed, and Lu Chen felt a little hot inside when he thought of Wang Qingkai's soft and delicate body. There is no way, he has not broken through to the 9th level yet, and cannot suppress his inner desires. Mu Zixuan smiled and said, "I understand." Then Mu Zixuan said to the maid Xiao, "Xiao, go and invite Miss Wang to the palace and say that I want to thank her personally." "Yes, Princess." Then Xiao went to Beiwa Tower. Not long after, Wang Qingkai met Xiao. When he heard that the princess wanted to thank him personally, Wang Qingkai frowned slightly. She suffered a loss in the palace last time, so now she has lingering fears about the palace. She still hasn't figured out how she was tricked. She has been recalling the details of what happened that day for half a month, but she still can't find any trace of the other party drugging her. This time Mu Zixuan invited herself to the palace, maybe it was that lecher who instigated her again. Wang Qingkai's delicate body could not help but tremble when he thought of Lu Chen. Last time, the devil didn't let her go for several hours, completely treating her like a plaything. Wang Qingkai hesitated. Should he go to the palace today, or should he wait a few days until the people from the Blood Moon Tower arrived? After pondering for a moment, Wang Qingkai still planned to visit the palace. First of all, this was an order from the palace, and it was difficult for her, an Waran in name only, to refuse. Secondly, she was on guard this time. She was confident that she would not be tricked again, and she planned to bring Ruan Jisan. After entering the palace, if she was alone with Lu Chen again, she would directly use Ruan Jisan to deal with him. This time, she didn't believe she would be played again. Recommended book Apocalyptic Crisis in Ancient Times. Fortunately I have many children and blessings. Remarks on the launch. The word count of this book has been reached and it is about to be put on the shelves. Audience. I saw that the follow-up reading of Kidian seems to be good, and there are many readers of Kidian, so I still want to say that this book is a monthly subscription book of QRead, so it was put on the shelves relatively early. The monthly subscription is like being a member of Tencent Video. Once you become a member, you can watch VIP content for free. At present, QRead membership is not expensive and there are many books. If you are interested, you can read it. Kidian readers saw that I was on the shelves so quickly, so please don't criticize me. I saw a lot of monthly subscription books being criticized by Kidian readers, saying they looked ugly. The update rules after being put on the shelves are that 2 chapters will be updated daily. If the number of recommended tickets or monthly tickets reaches 300 on the day, an additional update will be added. If someone rewards you with 10,000 book coins, add one more update. Up to 3 additional updates. Finally, I would like to thank readers for their support and editors for their support. Chapter 25 The Function of the All-Poison-Proof Elixir. Under the leadership of the servants of the palace, Wang Qingkai once again came to the place where she lost her body. Looking at the palace plaque in front of her, the scene from half a month ago kept echoing in her mind. Wang Qingkai tried hard to control his emotions and look calm. Soon, the servants of the palace brought Wang Qingkai to the north courtyard. After entering the courtyard, Wang Qingkai only saw Lu Chen sitting in the pavilion, but not the princess. Seeing this scene, Wang Qingkai instantly understood that it was indeed this lecher who had made excuses to trick him. Why did the princess want to thank herself? It was clearly because he wanted to repeat his same trick and play with her body again. Wang Qingkai sneered in his heart. This time was different from last time. It would not be easy for King Bei to repeat his old tricks. She then clenched the Ruinjin powder in her hand, planning to use the Ruinjin powder on Lu Chen while Lu Chen wasn't paying attention, and then use charming skill to charm him. If you dare to take away her innocence, she will make King Bei pay a heavy price today. Thinking of this, Wang Qingkai walked slowly towards the pavilion, then saluted and said, "The slave family has met the prince." Lu Chen nodded slightly, and then said with a serious face, "Miss Wang, Zixuan said that she has something to do with you, but she just went to the perfume shop and won't be back for a while. Just sit down and wait." Wang Qingkai said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Wang Qingkai then came to the stone table, blocked the teapot on the stone table with Yun Shang, and put the soft tendons in. At this time, Lu Chen took a look at Wang Qingkai, and Wang Qingkai's personal information appeared in his eyes. Name, Wang Qingkai. Identity, 9th grade warrior, the adopted daughter of the Jiangnan Wang family, the saint of Yanyu Pavilion, and the temporary owner of Beihua Tower. When she heard that Buwang Mansion was looking for her, she saw through it at a glance that this was Buwang's trick, but she still chose to go. After arriving at Buwang's mansion, she poured the Ruinjin powder into the teapot, planning to drug Buwang first, then use her charm power to charm Bei King, and finally take revenge on Bei King. Rating, 95. Favorability, 75, continuously affected by Longfeng tea. Seeing Wang Qingkai's personal information, Lu Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Want to use Ruinjin San against him? Then her wishful thinking will not come true. Thinking of this, Lu Chen asked the system in his mind. System, can the 10,000 poison invincible pills be able to resist the Ruinjin powder? Of course, after taking the 10,000 poisons invulnerable pill, the host already possesses the 10,000 poisons body, 10,000 poisons invulnerable body. The host's body can dissolve all the poisons in the world. Lu Chen felt relieved after hearing the system's reply. Since Wang Qingkai used Ruinjin powder on him, it just so happened that he could use it to his advantage. Then Lu Chen came to the stone table and poured 2 cups of tea. 1 cup was placed in front of Wang Qingkai, and the other cup was held by himself. "Miss Wang, you are thirsty. Drink some tea to moisten your throat." Wang Qingkai said quickly, "Thank you, Your Majesty, I'm not thirsty." She just put Ruinjin powder in this teapot, but she didn't dare to drink it. Even if there was no Ruinjin powder, she wouldn't dare to drink the palace's tea. What happened last time was still vivid in her mind, and she had to be extremely careful in the palace to avoid being tricked again. Seeing that Wang Qing refused to drink, Lu Chen didn't say anything more. Then he picked up the teacup and drank it all in one gulp. Then he sat on the stone bench next to Wang Qingkai, staring directly at Wang Qingkai. "Qingkai, I have been thinking about you since you went back last time." After hearing this, Wang Qingkai's heartbeat began to speed up inexplicably. She knew that King Bei was preparing to take action against her. At this time, Wang Qingkai felt very lucky. Fortunately, he had put Ruinjin San in the teapot in advance, otherwise the same situation as last time might have happened again. Wang Qingkai then said, "I would like to thank you, Your Majesty, for your concern." Lu Chen continued, "Qingkai, have you said goodbye to your sisters in Beihualu? I plan to find a time to buy you back." Wang Qingkai pretended to be pitiful and said, "Your Majesty, please give me some more time. I can't bear to leave them. I haven't told them about this yet." Lu Chen was about to say something, but suddenly hesitated, then raised his hand to cover his head. "Ouch, weird, why is my head so dizzy?" After hearing this, Wang Qingkai's eyes lit up. Ruin Jinsen took effect and she could start her performance. Wang Qingkai quickly pretended to be panicked, and then immediately came over to help Lu Chen. At this moment, her dress swept across the table and swept the teapot on the table to the ground. "My lord, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." "Your Majesty, just wait, I'll call someone over right now." At this time, apart from the two of them, there was no one in the north courtyard, not even a maid. Of course, this was specially arranged by Lu Chen. Lu Chen shook his head at this time and said, "Qingkai, I'm fine. Please help me to the room. I should be fine after taking a rest." Wang Qingkai then helped Lu Chen to a room in the north courtyard. If there were other people around at this time, they would definitely see a smile on the faces of Lu Chen and Wang Qingkai. Soon, Wang Qingkai helped Lu Chen enter the room, and she closed the door behind her. At this time, Wang Qingkai was completely unaware of the seriousness of the problem. She thought her plan was about to succeed. She was already thinking about how to deal with King Bei later to vent her hatred. After Lu Chen came to the bed and lay down, he pretended to be weak and said, "Qingkai, I'm fine. You don't have to worry. My body has always been weak. I often have headaches and my limbs are weak." Wang Qingkai sneered in his heart, "Is it more hypocritical? I don't know who played with her body for a few hours last time. Is this called weak?" Wang Qingkai did not intend to waste time. After all, she was in Buwang Mansion, and there was Chu Yukin there. She had to charm Buwang as soon as possible and find out from him about the mysterious master in Buwang Mansion. Then, Wang Qingkai looked into Lu Chen's eyes and said, "My lord, look into my eyes." After the words fell, Wang Qingkai showed a charming smile on her face, and then she prepared to use her charm skills. As a result, at this time, Lu Chen grabbed her beautiful hand, and then said with a smile, "Qingkai, you are so beautiful." Wang Qingkai was stunned for a moment. She found that the power in her body dissipated again, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. How so? It's obvious that King Bei didn't do anything. She was already so careful, but she still got tricked? Wang Qingkai glanced at Lu Chen, who was lying on the bed, and felt a little relieved. Fortunately, he had used Ruin Jinsan for Bei Wang in advance, so he couldn't do anything to him. However, just when Wang Qingkai was thinking this, Lu Chen's big hand directly pulled her onto the bed, and quickly turned over, looking down at Wang Qingkai. Wang Qingkai was stunned again. Didn't King Bei get hit by his own Ruin Jinsan? How could he still have strength? And just now she saw King Bei drink Ruin Jin powder with her own eyes. Wang Qingkai felt that her mind went blank. Just when she was about to say something, Lu Chen came down. Well. Ding. If the host develops a relationship with Wang Qingkai once, the Qi refining technique experience value will be increased by 20, and the rejuvenation hand experience value will be increased by 10. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Thank you.